The story begins with a bus hijacking carried out by a group of masked criminals. One of them points a gun at Iridasu Yuta and demands that he put his hands above his head. Yuta follows the command. The Telesis news station broadcasts the hijacking live, reporting that the armed group is currently heading toward Tokyo. Multiple police cars arrive and begin chasing the hijacked bus. Suddenly, a motorcycle crashes into the side mirror of one of the police cars and speeds past the convoy. A passenger on the bus begs one of the criminals to let him go, offering a large sum of money. However, instead of listening, the criminal fires his weapon, causing the money to fly out the bus window. Hearing the gunshot, the motorcyclist quickly accelerates, closing in on the bus. Meanwhile, Hikita Ito watches the hijacking unfold through the live news broadcast. Sitting beside Yuta is Chichibu Rabara, who seems to be focused on her device. Curious, Yuta asks her what she is doing, but Rabara tells him to be quiet. The person riding the motorcycle is Narujino Mikatan. She manages to get ahead of the bus and blocks its path. As the bus approaches, she launches herself into the air, smashes through the front windshield, and lands inside. Without hesitation, she delivers a powerful kick to one of the criminals, sending him flying out of the bus and crashing onto her motorcycle. Mikatan recites a chant to transform into Strange Juice, squeeze out the wicked soul, to guard the darkened heart. The hero of justice, Strange Juice, has arrived. In an instant, she transforms into a superhero-like figure, leaving Yuta completely stunned. Armed with a staff shaped like a soda straw, she begins her attack. Ito continues watching everything unfold through the news. One of the criminals orders the others to take her down. They all begin firing at Strange Juice, but none of the bullets hit her. She dodges and deflects them effortlessly. Then she leaps into action, striking one of the criminals with her staff and continuing to take out the rest one by one. Rabara yells out, warning that there is still one more criminal behind Strange Juice, the bus driver. Strange Juice manages to stop the driver from stabbing her. As the bus begins to lose control, Yuta jumps from his seat but is thrown backward when the vehicle hits a barrier. Strange Juice also loses her balance. She quickly calls out to Rabara to take the wheel. Rabara is shocked that Strange Juice knows her name but rushes toward the driver's seat anyway. She steps on the brake only to realize it is not working. The bus will not stop. Just then, a voice comes through from Daihatsu Meika, who introduces herself as Pumpkin Chain. Strange Juice expresses her frustration that Pumpkin Chain did not help earlier. Meika explains there was a slight connection issue, but has now been resolved. She says she will stop the bus by activating a tire killer at the toll gate. Strange Juice asks how long it will take. Pumpkin Chain replies, 3 seconds. Strange Juice signals everyone on board to hold on tight. The bus eventually comes to a stop after crashing into the barrier. News reports confirm the bus has finally stopped and wonder if there were any survivors. Thankfully, all passengers make it out safely. Strange Juice even manages to restrain the bus driver. She then returns to her normal form. The front door of the bus cannot be used due to the crash, so Mikatan leads everyone out through the back exit. But as she turns around, someone suddenly points a gun at the back of her head. Just as she suspected, the person behind everything finally steps forward, Teruoka Ryudo. Although Ryudo had stayed seated the whole time, Rabara walks over and asks what he is doing. Without warning, Ryudo strikes Rabara in the stomach with his elbow, knocking her unconscious. He then orders Mikatan to kneel and put her hands behind her head. Mikatan asked what Ryudo was planning to do. Ryudo said the troublemakers had to be eliminated and Mikatan would be the first one he would take out. But as he noticed a mark on the back of her neck, he suddenly stopped talking. Mikatan asked why he was hesitating and not pulling the trigger. Meanwhile, Yuthan woke up and saw Mikatan being held at gunpoint, but his eyes were accidentally drawn toward the waistband of Rabara's underwear. Just when Ryudo was about to shoot, Yuthan activated his powers and slammed into Ryudo, throwing him out of the bus. Both of them fell into the river and Mikatan quickly jumped in to save Yuthan, who was sinking to the bottom. Yuthan later woke up on the riverbank asking if Mikatan was the one who had rescued him. As the wind blew hard, Mikatan's skirt lifted slightly, revealing her underwear. Yuthan accidentally saw it, which instantly made his face blush and caused a nosebleed. He fainted again. Mikatan panicked and tried to wake Yuthan up, but he wouldn't respond. Just then, a strange energy entered Yuthan's body and pushed his spirit out. When Yuthan opened his eyes, a cat was suddenly standing in front of him, telling him that his spirit had been separated from his body. Shocked, Yuthan looked around and realized he was in his own apartment. He immediately asked how the cat could talk and knew so much about him. The cat told him to calm down. Yuthan was even more stunned when he looked down and saw that he no longer had legs. His form now was completely spiritual. The cat introduced himself as Chirinosuke, a fellow spirit like Yuthan. Chirinosuke reassured him that he wasn't dead yet. Then he invited Yuthan to watch something on a laptop, but when he turned it on, an awkward cat video accidentally played first. Chirinosuke then pulled up a live feed of room 103, Yuthan's own room. Chirinosuke and Yuthan were currently in room 203, directly above it. They saw someone walk into the room, and when the camera angle changed, it became clear that the person in room 103 was actually Yuthan's body. Yuthan was shocked to see himself. Chiranosuke explained that this was a Nika live stream from Mekaniko, which meant everything they were seeing was happening in real time. Suddenly, Chiranosuke jumped hard on the floor, and in the video, Yuthan's body reacted to the sound from the room above. Confused, Yuthan tried to understand how this was all possible. He floated through the wall and down the hallway, though he still hadn't fully gotten the hang of his spirit form. He accidentally phased through the floor and ended up in front of room 103. When he tried to go through the door, he was suddenly thrown back. He couldn't understand why he couldn't enter. Chiranosuke explained that it was because of a barrier. There were charms around the room designed to ward off spirits. Frustrated, Yuthan had no idea who would put such things up. Chiranosuke told him that whoever had possessed his body must have placed them. Chiranosuke then explained that Yuthan's body hadn't just been left behind, someone had actually taken it over. As a result, Yuthan's spirit had been forced out. Yuthan was distracted for a moment when he saw Chiranosuke casually sipping sake. Chiranosuke didn't really want to explain why. The important thing, he said, was that Yuthan needed to find something called the Nandala Gondala. Yuthan had no idea what that was, so Chiranosuke explained. It was a sacred book from ancient India, said to contain a hidden ritual to reclaim a body that had been possessed. Yuthan asked where the book was. Chiranosuke replied that it was somewhere in one of the rooms at Korei dorm, but he didn't know exactly which one. He encouraged Yuthan to go find it. Yuthan wasn't entirely convinced about Nandala Gondala, but regardless he had to look for it. To him, the most suspicious room was room 102, which belonged to Ito. He phased through the door and entered her room. It was 9:08 a.m. Ito wasn't there, but the room was still a mess. Yuthan started searching every corner of the room and went through some stacks of books. Her computer was still on and playing news footage about the bus hijacking that had happened earlier that day. Just then, Ito walked out of the bathroom. She stretched her arms, and as she did, her shirt lifted slightly, unintentionally revealing her underwear. Yuthan accidentally saw it, gasped in shock, and quickly apologized before turning away in a panic. But since he was a spirit, his body slipped through the wall into the next room. As luck would have it, the person in the next room was wearing a short skirt and happened to be jumping up and down, which once again caused her underwear to become visible to Yuthan. This second unexpected incident triggered a nosebleed, a clear sign that he was overwhelmed. In that moment, he unleashed his full power strong enough to destroy Earth's atmosphere. And as a result, a massive disaster occurred that ended life on the planet. Now floating somewhere in space, Yuthan was completely lost and confused. Chiranosuke appeared and told him there was something important he had forgotten to mention. Whenever Yuthan became too stimulated and lost consciousness, it would cause an asteroid to crash into Earth and wipe out humanity. Yuthan couldn't quite grasp what Chiranosuke meant. Chiranosuke went on to explain that everything had happened because of Yuthan's actions. Every time he saw a girl's underwear, his excitement would reach its limit, unlocking his hidden superhuman abilities. But if he got overly stimulated while already at that peak, the limit would break and he would pass out, which would then trigger the global catastrophe. Yuthan was still unsure how this had anything to do with falling asteroids, but Chiranosuke told him not to overthink it. The point was simple. If Yuthan didn't want humanity to be destroyed, then he had to avoid getting overly stimulated. Chiranosuke urged him to fix what had happened, to go back in time and start over. According to Chiranosuke, spirits weren't bound by the same rules of time or physical form, especially since Yuthan no longer had a body. Yuthan didn't fully understand everything Chiranosuke was saying, but Chiranosuke encouraged him to return to the flow of time and work to create the greatest happiness and a peaceful future. Yuthan was sent back to the exact same moment, 9:08 a.m., right when he had first entered Ito's room. He heard Ito's voice coming from the bathroom. Remembering what happened last time, he quickly turned away and phased into the room next door, room 101, where he saw Mikatan reaching up for a book on a high shelf. She had to jump a few times to grab it, which unintentionally exposed her underwear again. Yuthan quickly turned his head away, doing everything he could to avoid seeing her. He then remembered what he was actually there for, the book. Maybe Mikatan was also looking for Nandala Gondala. Yuthan decided to search under the bed. Unexpectedly, just as he looked under it, Mikatan's face appeared there too. She had also been checking under the bed for her book. Their faces ended up extremely close to each other. This moment reminded Yuthan of what happened 9 months ago when they met for the first time. Back then, they had bumped into each other and dropped all the stuff they were carrying. Mikatan had kindly helped him gather everything up. Seeing Yuthan completely frozen in awe, Mikatan had asked if they had met before. At that moment, Meika, who lived in room 201, mentioned that Mikatan was a member of the idol group She's May, which would explain why Yuthan seemed so captivated by her. That was when they first properly introduced themselves. Meika then asked Mikatan what she had been holding on to so tightly the entire time. It turned out that Mika-tan was holding Yuthan's shorts. She instantly let go of them and apologized. Suddenly, someone knocked on Mika-tan's door from outside. It turned out to be Chichibu Rabura, the resident of room 202, who had come by to borrow some salt. Mika-tan asked if the salt was for dinner, and Rabura replied that ghost hunting could also be considered a form of dinner. Rabura had just received a request to exorcise a spirit the next day. Mika-tan then asked what kind of salt was typically used to expel spirits. Rabura said that any kind would do as long as the intent was strong enough. Yuthan, who was nearby, mumbled something about Rabura. As a spiritual medium, Rabura sensed it and asked Mika-tan if she had said something about her. Then Rabura handed over a book that Mika had borrowed, asking Mika-tan to return it. Coincidentally, that was the book Mika-tan had been looking for. Yuthan came closer to confirm if that was indeed the book she had been searching for. Suddenly, Mika-tan started reciting a passage from the book. However, it turned out that it wasn't the right one. Rabura guessed that maybe the books had been switched by accident. Yuthan headed to Meika's room. Meika was knitting while softly singing to herself. Yuthan spotted a book under the table and tried to grab it, but his hand kept passing through the object. Chirinosuke appeared and explained that Yuthan's spirit power was still weak. Spirit power determines how much a ghost can physically interact with objects. The higher the level, the more they can move heavier things, even make objects levitate. At his current level, Yuthan could barely knock over a pencil. To test it, Yuthan tried moving a ball of yarn. It rolled a bit and fell to the floor, confirming that he was still at the beginner spirit level. Meika picked up the ball of yarn and noticed the book under the table. She must have left it there while cleaning earlier. The book turned out to be a family photo album. Suddenly, a news broadcast appeared, reporting on a crime carried out by the Kyumei groups, suspected to be linked to a recent bus hijacking. At the same time, a specific song started playing, which prompted Meika to hurry out of the room. Rabura was also confused by the signal that came from the music Mika-tan had put on. Meika rushed into Mika-tan's room and said that Kaminishi had escaped. Rabura panicked and dashed out, forgetting the salt. Mika-tan called after her, and Rabura came back just to grab it. The book Mika-tan had been searching for finally showed up. It was near the door all along. It turned out to be a lyrics book. Meika explained that the song was a distress signal. She called out to Strange Juice. Mika-tan quickly got ready and transformed into Strange Juice. Mika-tan began changing into her superhero costume. Yuthan accidentally caught a glimpse of her while she was in the middle of changing and immediately shut his eyes in embarrassment. Now fully suited up, the hero's Strange Juice was ready. Meika, using her alias Pumpkin Chain, invited her to get moving. They passed through a hidden door under the table, which led into a long underground tunnel. Yuthan, still confused about what was going on, decided to follow them through it. They arrived in a large room filled with parked motorcycles. Strange Juice asked Pumpkin Chain what she was holding. It turned out to be a charm she was making for Strange Juice. Though the charm wasn't finished yet, Strange Juice took it anyway and rushed off. Unintentionally, some thread from Pumpkin Chain's outfit got caught on the charm. As Strange Juice sped off on her motorcycle, it pulled the thread and accidentally caused Pumpkin Chain's clothes to unravel. Yuthan was still in disbelief that Mika-tan was actually Strange Juice. Then, by accident, he turned and saw Meika standing there in only her undergarments. The shock triggered a powerful atmospheric reaction that caused another catastrophic explosion, wiping out humanity on Earth once again. One day, Meika, the owner of the Korei boarding house, walked into Rabura's room to ask for the rent. But Rabura, who was drunk at the time, said she couldn't pay it right now. She added that her exorcism business had been slow lately, and worse, people had started calling her a fraud. Meika, realizing that Rabura was going through a tough time, took the sake bottle Rabura was about to drink. Rabura broke down in tears and said everything was falling apart because she didn't have any spiritual powers. Even though she came from a long line of temple priests, she added that she was the only one in her family with tan skin. Meika told her that had nothing to do with anything. Rabura responded by saying ghosts weren't real. Meika casually pointed in a random direction, coincidentally right at Yuthan's spirit, and asked, "Then what's that?" Yuthan froze in shock. Rabura told Meika not to joke around like that. Meika laughed, revealing she was just messing with her. Yuthan was relieved to hear it. For a moment, he had thought Meika could actually see him. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed through the house. Neither of them knew what had happened. Meika quickly rushed downstairs to find out where the noise had come from. She knocked on Ito's door and asked about the sound she had just heard from inside. Ito admitted that the scream was hers. She said she had been feeling suffocated lately, so she screamed to refresh herself. But to Meika, it had sounded more like an animal. Ito laughed and said that couldn't be, especially since keeping pets at Korei House was strictly against the rules. Meika then heard another strange sound and asked about it. Ito said she was feeling itchy. Meika figured the noise could come from Ito scratching herself, which Ito confirmed, saying her skin was extremely dry. Meika noted that if that really was just scratching, it had to be pretty intense, and she started to worry. Ito then said she was just picking at a scab. Meika, being her usual naive self, believed her and commented that the scab must have been huge. The sound came again. This time, Ito claimed a bug had flown into her throat. Meika grew even more concerned, but Ito reassured her that she was fine. Though Meika didn't understand what was going on, she still suggested Ito go see a doctor. Meanwhile, Chiranosuke compared Yuthan's current situation to that of a baby who didn't know when to wake up for milk, when to finish, or when to fall back asleep. Yuthan suspected Chiranosuke was just trying to steer the conversation toward breasts. Chiranosuke explained that the point was that a spirit's time of awareness is unpredictable. Yuthan mentioned that the bus hijacking had happened on the 21st, but now it was the 23rd. He realized he had already lost 2 days. If he could travel back in time again like before, maybe he could fix things. Unfortunately, his current spirit level was too low. Instead of rewinding time, he could only end up landing in the Valley of Space-Time. Chiranosuke handed him a pudding shaped like a pair of hills. He explained that the Valley of Space-Time was like a dip between infinite timelines, like the space between two soft hills. With Yuthan's current level, even if he landed somewhere near the edge, he would just slide all the way down to the bottom. Chiranosuke used the pudding to help explain the concept visually. Yuthan got annoyed and asked why everything had to be explained with that kind of metaphor. Chiranosuke, unfazed, turned to his computer to show another video. But, as usual, the first clip that popped up was of cats behaving strangely. Yuthan was visibly irritated and suspected that Chiranosuke had shown it on purpose. They turned their attention back to the live feed from Yuthan's room. His physical body was opening a box. Chiranosuke was convinced there was something suspicious inside. But Yuthan wasn't concerned about the box, he only cared about who had taken over his body. Chiranosuke stated that whoever had taken it must be a spirit, otherwise there's no way they could have possessed it. Yuthan knew what he had to do, find the Nambala Gondola book. Once he found it, everything could be fixed. Chiranosuke tried to bring up the subject of breasts again, but this time Yuthan lost his patience and scolded him. Meiko was watching TV when a commercial came on about a book called The Science of Joy, which she had already purchased. The book claimed to use techniques developed by NASA to help people overcome various life challenges. Meanwhile, Rabara was playing with her turtle when she received a message from someone asking if she was a psychic. Rabara responded, confirming that she was indeed a psychic. The person replied, saying that it was a cool job, mysterious and fascinating. Rabara responded with a shy smile emoji. The person then said they would love to chat again sometime and mentioned how much they wanted to meet Rabara in person. This left her feeling unsure. She was worried that once they found out she was only a fake psychic, they might hate her. Yuthan's spirit, who had been observing, noticed how troubled Rabara looked. He remembered the times Rabara used to vent to him. Back then, she had ranted about a cocky IT company CEO who had disappointed her deeply. Yuthan asked if she had just been rejected again. Rabara said it wasn't rejection, she had simply seen that CEO walking hand in hand with another girl. Yuthan then asked if she was still a virgin. Rabara blushed and said she wasn't. Yuthan replied that he had heard from her older sister that Rabara had never even been in a relationship. Rabara got irritated and said her sister, who once live-streamed her own private life 24/7, was just making things up. But in the end, Rabara admitted it was all true. She had no idea why her sister suddenly went to study in the US. Now, Rabara didn't know who she could confide in anymore, so she playfully teased Yuthan by moving closer to him. Suddenly, Mikatan entered Rabara's room carrying an apple pie. She was startled to see Rabara lying flat on the floor and asked what had happened. Rabara sat up and commented that Mikatan's accent sounded like it was from Subaru. Embarrassed, Mikatan instinctively covered her mouth. Rabara pointed out that Mikatan's profile said she was from Tokyo and said it might not look good for she's May. Mikatan smiled awkwardly and insisted that Rabara try the apple pie she had baked, and she even added some extra cinnamon for her. Just then, the TV switched to an interview with Strange Juice about the recent bus hijacking. But before Strange Juice could say anything, Mikatan quickly turned off the TV. Rabara asked why she turned it off when the show was just getting interesting. Mikatan said she thought no one was watching it. She told Rabara how grateful she was that she survived the bus hijacking. One wrong move and Rabara might not have made it. Rabara explained that the whole thing happened because of Akina, Yuthan's older sister. She had visited their home and said she had to leave soon, so Rabara and Yuthan took her to the airport. On the way back, they got caught up in the bus hijacking incident. While Mikatan was tidying up some scattered cans, she accidentally bumped into Rabara's turtle. Startled, she flung it away. Rabara quickly caught the turtle, but it landed on her stomach and slipped under her skirt. Mikatan screamed and ran out of the room in fear. The turtle crawled out from under Rabara's skirt, lifting it briefly in the process. Yuthan, who witnessed it by accident, screamed in panic and vanished in a flash. Meika then came into Rabara's room and asked about the strange smell. Rabara pointed to a bottle of cinnamon. She asked Meika why she had come in. Upon seeing Meika, Rabara was surprised. She was wearing a dove mask. Meika asked Rabira how she looked. Rabira had no idea why Meika was dressed that way. Meika explained that she was studying the science of joy, but Rabira thought it sounded more like some kind of mystical magic. Meika was showing off a technique she called the joyful arts that she had been learning. She started singing and doing a strange dance. Rabira, unimpressed, commented that so this was what she called a spiritual technique. Apparently, all it took was a mask and a song. Rabira grew annoyed and told Meika to stop joking around. Meika, however, insisted that she was being serious and asked why Rabira was so angry with her. Rabira explained that she was dealing with a serious problem. Meika replied that was exactly why she came, but Rabira argued that if mastering spiritual arts were really that easy, she wouldn't be in such a mess. The two of them ended up arguing, and eventually, Meika stormed out of Rabira's room, leaving Rabira even more frustrated. Meanwhile, Ito noticed her phone ringing and saw that Yuthan was calling. She quickly answered. Yuthan told her that he had gone to her apartment the day before. He wanted to ask her opinion about a script and wondered if it wasn't time for her to return to school. Ito didn't want to talk about any of that and ended the call abruptly when someone knocked at her door. She opened it to find Mikatan standing there, holding an apple pie. Yuthan's spirit watched Rabira as she performed the joyful arts wearing a dove mask. She started singing and doing strange dance moves again. Afterward, she tried to use a technique to move a bottle with her mind. Yuthan's spirit heard a voice coming from inside the bottle and thought it could talk. It turned out to be Chiranosuke, who was inside the bottle. He asked Yuthan's spirit to respond to Rabira's attempt at moving the bottle. Yuthan remarked that his own spiritual level could only manage to move a pencil. Chiranosuke explained that the room was currently filled with cinnamon particles, which could enhance spiritual power in a big way. Yuthan didn't really understand the logic behind it, but Chiranosuke encouraged him to give it a try anyway. Frustrated, Rabira threw off her dove mask, realizing that playing around the spiritual arts was not something to take lightly. Yuthan's spirit gave it a shot and tried to move the bottle, but it suddenly shattered. His spiritual level had now reached an advanced stage. Both he and Rabira were shocked by what had just happened. Back at the apartment, Mikatan invited Ito to try the pie she had made. Ito asked if Mikatan had promised to leave right after dropping it off, but instead Mikatan insisted on eating it together. Ito felt annoyed since that hadn't been part of the plan. Mikatan then wondered if Ito was hiding something. Ito denied it and said everything was fine. Mikatan was eager to start eating but realized there were no forks on the table. She went to the kitchen to grab one. Just as she stepped away, a strange sound could be heard. She asked Ito about it and Ito claimed it was her own voice. She even tried to imitate the sound. Mikatan asked if she was really doing okay, especially since she had been isolating herself lately. Mikatan suggested she get outside and enjoy some sunlight. The strange sound happened again and Ito mimicked it once more, clearly trying to throw Mikatan off. Mikatan started to worry that something was off with Ito mentally or emotionally. Ito reassured her that she was fine and mentioned that she had even gone out earlier. Mikatan then tried to help tidy up Ito's hair, which was a complete mess. As she searched for a comb, she noticed something odd, some reddish strands on the comb that didn't match Ito's usual hair color. Ito got irritated and told Mikatan not to make baseless comments. Suddenly, Mikatan was confused by a salmon lying on the floor. Ito, without hesitation, devoured it. Mikatan was startled by how strangely Ito ate. But Ito explained that this was just how people in her family usually ate fish. Mikatan was startled again when she noticed something strange on Ito's back. Ito claimed it was just from scratching herself, but the shape of it seemed really unusual to Mikatan. Ito was annoyed by Mikatan's non-stop chatter and she said that spikes had started growing on her back like a stegosaurus. Mikatan was convinced it must be some kind of illness. Ito told Mikatan to leave her room, but Mikatan, seeing how strange Ito was acting, panicked and tried to calm her down. She screamed for help and said that Ito was in serious trouble. Rabira and Meika heard Mikatan scream and immediately rushed to Ito's room. At first they thought Ito was possessed by a fox spirit. Mikatan tried to explain to them that spikes had grown out of Ito's back like a stegosaurus. This, of course, was way more alarming than a simple possession. Mikatan believed that Ito must be evolving into some other kind of creature. She asked Meika if she had a device that could stop the evolution process. Meika naturally didn't have anything like that. Her stomach was in a magical pocket. Suddenly, the bear cub crawled out from under Ito's jacket and Ito became visibly embarrassed. Everyone was stunned to see a baby bear in Ito's room. Meika asked how the bear got there and Rabira questioned if pets were even allowed in the building. Ito claimed that the bear cub was her younger brother, Hikatomi Mui, a second grader in elementary school who had just started learning the 8 times table. Meika could tell Ito was lying, especially since she was the one who previously said that pets were strictly forbidden in Korei House. Ito then pointed out that Rabira also had a pet, but to Meika, having a turtle was different. It didn't make noise, cause trouble, or destroy the room. Mika-tan was confused as to why there was a baby bear here in the first place. Ito explained that she had found him in the woods during a rainstorm, crying alone inside a cardboard box. Meika told her to stop lying again, but Ito insisted that she was telling the truth this time. Meika suggested reporting the situation to the local clinic. As she got ready to leave, Ito stopped her and said she would not give the bear cub up to anyone, only she could understand what the little one needed. Mui looked visibly sad. Mika-tan pleaded with Meika to give them more time. She pointed out how wrong it would be to abandon a baby bear during a storm. Rabura agreed, noting that bears were not the same as dogs or cats. Mika-tan suggested it would be best if they first investigated how the bear cub ended up abandoned. Meika agreed but warned that if they didn't find any leads by the end of the year, she would report it immediately. Ito felt relieved and promised she would always protect Mui. Mui was happy and began tickling Ito. Meanwhile, Yuthan's spirit was watching all of this unfold. Later that night, Mika-tan met Meika out on the balcony. She asked Meika what the real reason was behind Ito deciding to quit school. Meika said she had already asked but never got an answer. Yuthan's spirit overheard this and remembered a conversation he had with Ito. Back then, he had been surprised to find out that the person who beat him in a video game was actually his neighbor. He asked Ito if she was skipping school just to play video games, since it would explain why she was so good. Then he asked where she went to school and again questioned why she was skipping it. Ito told him he was being insensitive and asked if he realized how rude he was being by bombarding her with questions like that. Yuthan apologized. Ito then shared that she had moved here because she never felt accepted. Meika pointed out that Ito's father was part of the city's education committee, and her dropping out could cause problems, especially since it might impact his chances in the upcoming election. Apparently, it was Rabura's cousin who introduced Ito to Korei House. Meika assumed that Ito must have been feeling very lonely. Suddenly, Mika-tan suggested they throw a party, especially since Christmas Eve was coming up. They planned to invite everyone in Korei House, including Ito. Even Yuthan's spirit wanted to be invited. Just then, Rabura showed up and said she had forgotten to tell Meika and Mika-tan something. She quickly placed an urn in front of them, put on a dove mask, and began singing and dancing. Rabura tried to summon some sort of power to show off to them. Yuthan's spirit tried to shatter the urn, but nothing happened. His powers only worked when there was cinnamon powder around. Rabura became sad, feeling disappointed that there were no ghosts after all. She had really wanted to be just as amazing as her mother and grandmother. To cheer her up, Mika-tan and Meika performed a joyful dance spell. It worked. Rabura cheered up again. Meika even promised to teach her the second part of the happy dance spell. Meanwhile, Shihaya Tomoto sent Ito a video link that was making the rounds online. The video showed a list of this year's victims. One of the names listed among them was Hikiyotani Ito. She was shocked to see her own name there. A video shows the Kumei group revealing that an asteroid named VR1 is currently approaching Earth. The asteroid is said to be about 2 kilometers in diameter. For comparison, the asteroid believed to have led to the extinction of the dinosaurs was about 10 kilometers wide. It's easy to imagine the level of destruction VR1 would cause if it were to crash into Earth. International organizations claim that a direct collision is impossible, but in truth, all of that is a lie. The impact is very real and is expected to happen on December 31st at 11:55 p.m. However, the US government and other developed nations are allegedly hiding this information from the public. They've reportedly formed a secret pact, and world leaders are being evacuated quietly into nuclear shelters. They're afraid that public knowledge of the shelters would lead to mass panic and chaos, so they've chosen to protect themselves and let the rest of the world face the disaster unprepared. The Kumei group refuses to accept such a conspiracy. They demand that the governments of the US and Japan come forward and reveal the truth. Although their message was broadcast on television, it was dismissed as nonsense. Instead, TV stations labeled Kumei's doomsday beliefs as dangerous. It's possible that Kumei truly believes the world is ending, or maybe they're trying to bring it about themselves. All in the name of carrying out the vision of their recently deceased leader, Tsubuchi Kumei. Chirinosuke turned off the television. Yuthan asked what Kumei meant when they talked about the asteroid hitting Earth. He suspected that maybe the government and experts had been lying all along. But in his opinion, the ones who actually wanted humanity to be wiped out were Kumei. Since Tsubuchi Kumei had died, Yuthan began to suspect that someone or something might have possessed his body. Yuthan then went to Ito's room to see what she was watching. Suddenly, Mika-tan's voice could be heard from outside the room, asking Ito to open the door. Mika-tan had brought in a Christmas tree, which she placed inside the room. She said she had an idea to hold a Christmas party at the Korei house. Excited, Mika-tan started singing jingle bells and turned on the Christmas lights. Out of nowhere, Mui jumped toward the tree. Mika-tan quickly caught the baby bear and gently warned him not to play near the decorations. Ito then asked Mika-tan about the bus hijacking that happened the day before and showed her a video of strange juice. She was starting to suspect that strange juice might actually be Mika-tan. Mika-tan immediately ran off to find Meika. But when she entered Meika's room, she found a strange octopus-like figure inside. Mika-tan exclaimed that someone from Mars must have arrived. Rabura entered Ito's room with some items for the Christmas party, but she didn't find Ito inside. Ito had gone to Mika-tan's room, where she ran into Strange Juice. Ito was looking for Mika-tan even though she had just asked her to come there. Strange Juice said she had no idea where Mika-tan was. Gathering her courage, Ito asked if it was true that she and Mika-tan were friends. Strange Juice answered that they had been close for a long time, best friends even. Ito also asked how Strange Juice knew Rabura. She replied that Mika-tan had once shown her a picture of Rabura. Yuthan's spirit, who had been observing everything, commented that Strange Juice was lying. But Ito wasn't fully convinced yet. She felt there wasn't enough evidence. Strange Juice seemed to sense that suspicion and said she would show the proof soon, but first asked to use the bathroom. Ito reminded her that she had forgotten to close the bathroom door. Strange Juice replied that she liked to live freely even in the bathroom. This made Yuthan's spirit even more curious. He began to wonder what Strange Juice was really doing in there. He was shocked to see Mika-tan changing into Meika's octopus-like combat outfit. Earlier, when Mika-tan had gone to Meika's room, she had mistaken Meika for a Martian. Meika had laughed and explained that it was a high-tech camouflage combat suit she had developed and nicknamed the Two-Maker. Now it was clear Mika-tan had been using the suit to confuse Ito. Once she had it on, Mika-tan turned invisible. She tiptoed past Ito and pretended to fall from the bed, startling her. Ito couldn't understand how that was possible. She thought there must be a secret passage from the bathroom to the bed. Mika-tan started to panic and denied the idea, but Ito wasn't convinced. She said she wanted to check the bathroom herself. Mika-tan tried to stop her, saying that Strange Juice was still using it. But Ito pointed out that the door was wide open anyway. Quickly thinking on her feet, Mika-tan pretended to call out to Strange Juice and tried to stall her. Mika-tan said that everything was clear and she just wanted to go back to sleep since there was still time before the party started. She kindly took her bed and closed the curtains. Ito was still confused when suddenly, the sound of flushing came from the bathroom. Strange Juice appeared and met Ito, explaining that Mika-tan and he were two different people and that they were just friends. There was no use denying it anymore and Ito had to accept the truth. She asked Strange Juice for some advice. He asked if she was dealing with the problem. Before Ito could even explain, a scream was heard from the room next door. They quickly rushed over and were shocked to find Rabura being held hostage by a man dressed in a robot costume. He was threatening her with a knife. Rabura begged her friends to help her. Mika-tan asked who the man was and suddenly, Mui leaped out of Ito's arms, growling at the stranger. The man demanded that Ito hand Mui over. Just as the man was about to strike with his knife, something stopped his arm and twisted it back. Yuthan's spirit instantly realized that it had to be Two-Maker's doing. Meika, who was inside Two-Maker, gave an order to Strange Juice to attack immediately. Strange Juice charged at the man and kicked him hard, knocking him down. He demanded that the man show his face, but was taken aback when he saw a turtle in a very strange and inappropriate spot. The turtle suddenly moved in a way that caused the man to react and regain his strength. He then punched Strange Juice and kicked him so hard that he was thrown out of the room. The man intentionally stomped on a milk box, revealing Two-Maker's camouflage. He landed a hit on Two-Maker, which left Meika unable to move the body. The man raised his knife again to stab Two-Maker, but Mui jumped in the way and bit him, causing the man to get wounded in the stomach. Blood came out of Mui's stomach instead, sending Ito into a panic. She immediately held the little bear in her arms, but the man insisted that Mui's injury was minor and demanded that Ito hand it over. Yuthan's spirit noticed a bracelet with a Kumei symbol on the man's wrist. Just then, Rabura threw a bottle of cinnamon powder, but the man smashed it with his knife, scattering cinnamon all over. Rabura stepped in to block him. Things were getting dangerous. Chirinosuke told Yuthan that it was time to use his spiritual power. The cinnamon that Rabura had thrown would have a mysterious effect that boosts Yuthan's spiritual strength. Yuthan immediately attacked and bit the man while Rabura watched in disbelief. Mui regained consciousness and bit the man again, but this time he got caught and was locked inside a cage. The man quickly ran away. Yuthan tried to chase him, but couldn't catch up, especially since there was no cinnamon outside. He didn't know what to do next. Suddenly, a masked hero stood in his way. He introduced himself as a super-powered savior named Miyazawa Kenji. The man just saw Kenji as another weirdo. Kenji tried to attack. The man knocked him down with just one touch and even slapped him. Yuthan couldn't understand what Kenji was capable of, and both Rabura and Ito thought he was pretty weak. Kenji explained that he wasn't feeling well, possibly due to a stiff neck from sleeping in a bad position. The man sarcastically asked if Kenji was done with his small talk. Kenji then asked the man to wait for 20 seconds. Surprisingly, the man agreed and asked what kind of reward he would get. He even started counting down the 20 seconds. Kenji sprinted to room 102 and came back quickly. When the man demanded his reward, Kenji responded with a powerful move. He threw the man down and kicked him straight into the pool. Kenji then rescued Mui, who had fallen into the pool too. Mui was safe and Ito ran over to hug him tightly. Unfortunately, the man managed to escape. Ito was shocked to see that Mui's wound had completely healed. Strange Jews came over and asked if everyone was alright, but he had forgotten to wear his mask, so everyone saw Mika-tan's face. She quickly ran off to find Meika and told her that the situation had become critical. A billboard in the city center showed that the suspect, Ryuta Terenuka, was behind the Kyumei group's hostage incident. The police were still actively searching for him. Yuthan wondered why he had missed another day, but Shiranasuke explained that the party happened on December 25th, Christmas Day, not Christmas Eve, because an intruder had broken into the Korei dorm. Yuthan was curious about the person behind the robot mask. That person was also wearing a bracelet with the Kyumei symbol. Yuthan found it strange how Mui's injury had healed so quickly, and the mysterious identity of the odd man, Kenji Miyazawa, was still unsolved. Most of all, he was puzzled about Meika. Kenji had saved Meika and said he wanted to return the favor. Meika needed repairs because the intruder's punch had damaged her fusion reactor. When Meika asked who Kenji really was, he simply said that if a child from the East was unwell, he felt obligated to help, especially since Meika was a robot. Shiranasuke streamed a live video from Yuthan's room. The footage showed Meika dressed in a revealing outfit. Yuthan was confused about why she looked like that. Shiranasuke joked that maybe Meika was trying to help raise Japan's birth rate, but Yuthan reminded himself that Meika was just a robot, and he couldn't wrap his head around why a robot would even wear underwear. Meika was in the middle of repairing herself and had forgotten to put on an insulation ring needed to attach a replacement part. Mika-tan noticed and asked if she meant the rubber ring-shaped piece, then handed it over to her. Meika figured the punch had probably damaged her radiator. Mika-tan referred to the intruder as the turtle guy because it reminded her of the time a turtle got stuck to Rabara's sensitive area. Yuthan headed over to Ito's room. It looked like Ito and Mui were out. He tried turning on Ito's computer and it worked, which meant his spiritual power level had increased. Meanwhile, Rabara was eavesdropping on Meika and Mika-tan's conversation through the wall. Ito showed up and asked what she was doing. Rabara said Meika was acting like the wife of Strange Juice, just like they had talked about at the Christmas party. Ito already knew Meika's other name, Pumpkin Chair, and Rabara asked if Ito wasn't curious about their conversation. Ito then asked if Mika-tan was also in the next room. Rabara replied that it sounded like it, but it seemed pretty far away because their voices were barely audible. Mika-tan asked Meika why she seemed irritated. Meika replied that someone still hadn't arrived, referring to the monthly delivery of Handstand for Beginners, a magazine she subscribed to. Rabara told Ito that Meika and Mika-tan hadn't gotten their monthly visitor yet. She completely misunderstood what they meant. Mika-tan asked if Meika still couldn't do a handstand. Meika demonstrated one and said the result was positive. Unfortunately, Rabara and Ito, still listening from behind the wall, took that to mean Meika had a positive pregnancy result. Mika-tan clapped and congratulated Meika on finally managing to do a handstand. She asked how long Meika had been practicing and Meika replied it had been 3 months. That made Rabara and Ito think Meika was 3 months pregnant. Ito even said this was the time to get plenty of rest. Meika then mentioned she felt nauseous and wanted to throw up. That only reinforced the misunderstanding. Mika-tan reminded her not to forget the rubber ring again, saying this happened because she had forgotten to attach it. That made Rabara even more confused and sure of the wrong idea about the rubber. Unable to hold back any longer, Rabara barged into the room and brought Ito along to confront them. Meanwhile, Yuthan's spirit found out that Ito's name was included on the list of victims from the bus hijacking. Suddenly, a scream was heard. Someone shouted that Rabara had died. Panicked, Mika-tan quickly asked Meika if she had any kind of device that could bring Rabara back to life. They started discussing Professor Daihatsu Tenga. Ito knew about him. He was a brilliant inventor recognized all over the world. However, he had passed away 8 years ago. Before he died, he left everything to Meika and the Korei house. Meika even inherited his fortune after handling the legal documents and updating the family registry. She managed to do all that by hacking into the government system and rewriting the data. Meika's hacking skills were so advanced, they were practically god level. If she wanted to, she could launch a nuclear missile. Most of the professor's inventions were stored in a special storage room. Inside that room were 2 of his most significant creations. The first was Rizuko, which was kept in the kitchen, and the second was Meika herself. Meika was born in Korei House 20 years ago. Right after she was created, the professor greeted her warmly. Over the years, he taught her a wide range of things: knowledge, academics, cooking, and more. But there was one thing Meika could never do, no matter how many times the professor tried to teach her: a handstand. She eventually asked him why she just couldn't get it right. Not only that, but she also wasn't good at athletics in general. The professor told her not to worry about it. He reminded Meika that she wasn't a robot who needed to be able to do everything. Each robot, he said, had its own purpose and role. They only needed to master the tasks they were designed for. That's what made them special. Meika then asked him what her purpose was. The professor explained that someday she would be a girl, a secret agent who would eventually save the world, a member of Justice Punch. Meika's mission was to protect her, raise her, and support her. It might even be described as fate or divine will. Ida began to wonder, could that girl possibly be Mika-tan? Even Yuthan's spirit was surprised to discover that Corey House held such a huge secret. As Meika held onto a photo album, Chiranosuke suddenly warned Yuthan not to look at a particular photo of young Mika-tan in her underwear. Yuthan responded by saying there was no way he could be attracted to a photo of a child. But unexpectedly, he started getting a nosebleed, and the atmosphere around them suddenly turned chaotic again. 3 little kids were playing together. One of them, named Chiyoko, was singing a magic song, while the other 2, Pine and Guriko, were playing with a tennis ball. The song was something she had learned from Ishigata, and it was believed to lift someone's spirits whenever they felt lonely or sad. Guriko invited Chiyoko to join their game and catch the tennis ball. Chiyoko got ready to catch the throw, but unfortunately, she missed. The ball rolled into the bushes and Chiyoko went to get it. Out of nowhere, Pine asked Guriko to run away with her. Guriko was shocked. Obviously, that would be impossible. The entire laboratory was surrounded by an electric fence. Pine grew frustrated and asked Guriko if she was really okay with staying trapped in this place for the rest of her life. Guriko replied that she would talk to Ishigata about it first. Meanwhile, Rabara was having a conversation with Ito. She told her that Gliese was actually an alien from the planet Gliese 832c. Ito thought Rabara might have lost her mind. But Rabara insisted she wasn't crazy and said that Gliese would be coming to their apartment. Ito asked Rabara if she had met Gliese in person. Rabara admitted she had only seen his photo. Out of concern for how she might come across, Rabara decided to leave a male doll in Ito's room, worried that Gliese might think she was weird if he saw it in her own room. Rabara thanked her and left the doll there, even though Ito never agreed to it. A breaking news report came on stating that a young woman had been found collapsed and injured in her apartment earlier that morning. Not long after, it was confirmed that she had passed away. The body was identified as Meiko Shoro, a 17-year-old high school student who had apparently fallen from her apartment. Yuthan recognized the name. He had seen it on the list of victims from the video. It turned out that the names on that list were people who were going to be killed, which meant it was some kind of premeditated crime. That also meant Ito might be in danger. Chiranosuke figured Ito probably didn't know anything about this yet. Yuthan really wanted to warn her, but he didn't know how. According to Chiranosuke, the quickest way was to possess someone's body. Yuthan had never heard of doing something like that before. Chiranosuke explained that Yuthan wouldn't be able to possess anyone until he reached a certain spiritual level, and there were specific rules about how possession worked. Chiranosuke pulled up a video on his laptop to explain. At first, it seemed like he had opened a girl's swim meet clip by mistake, but that wasn't what he meant to show. The first rule of possession was that it wouldn't work if the person's consciousness was too strong, unless the spirit's level was high enough. To raise that level, Yuthan would need to use cinnamon. The second rule was that possession usually only worked if the target had a matching spiritual wavelength and also had potential as a spirit medium. Chiranosuke told Yuthan to spread the cinnamon and try to possess Rabara. Yuthan headed to Mika-tan's room where Mika-tan, Ito, and Meiko were talking. Mika-tan showed them an email from Gliese asking about Rabara. Meika had gotten a similar message. Mika-tan wasn't sure how to respond. Ito suggested they ask Rabara directly. Yuthan began searching for the cinnamon powder. He opened a drawer and found it. Now the only thing left was getting Rabara into the room. The 3 of them decided to go talk to her together. Along the way, they jokingly called Gliese a guy who lacked courage. Yuthan discreetly moved the bottle of cinnamon and slipped it into Mika-tan's pocket. When they arrived at Rabara's room, they were surprised to find her in revealing clothes cleaning her room. Rabara was busy and told them to come back later. Mika-tan approached her anyway, and Yuthan quickly moved the bottle of cinnamon out of Mika-tan's pocket. As he did, it accidentally caused her clothes to lift slightly and her underwear briefly showed. Yuthan immediately shut his eyes in embarrassment. The bottle hit the floor and broke, sending cinnamon powder all over the room. Rabara asked Mika-tan what she was doing, and Mika-tan replied that she wasn't doing anything at all. Yuthan nearly lost focus. He had to act fast. He concentrated and managed to possess Rabara, which caused her to faint instantly. They asked what happened to Rabara. Rabara woke up and said that she had succeeded. Mika-tan looked confused, wondering what was going on with her. Rabara, who was actually being possessed by Yuta at that moment, immediately turned to Ito and told her that she was in serious danger. Ito was puzzled. Mika-tan said that Rabara seemed different, as if the way she talked had changed from usual. Yuta thought they definitely would not believe him if he explained everything, so he quickly adjusted his speech pattern to match Rabura's tone so they would not get suspicious. Ito asked if Rabura was feeling alright. Rabura replied that there was something far more important that she needed to tell him. However, Meika interrupted the conversation. She wanted to ask Rabura what her favorite flower was. Yuta, still in Rabura's body, answered Rafflesia. Mikotan then asked what her favorite song was, and Yuta replied, "The one about your bread, the song by She's May." Mikotan got excited because it turned out Rabura listened to her song. The final question came from Ito. What was Rabura's favorite snack? Yuta answered, turtle pellets. Now it was finally Rabura's turn to say something, and it was supposed to be about Ito. But just as she was about to speak, Yuta was suddenly forced out of Rabura's body and she fainted again. Yuta had no idea what just happened, until Chirinosuke explained that Yuta could only possess someone for 7 minutes. Yuta got upset, asking why Chirinosuke had not mentioned that earlier. That night, Gliese visited Rabura's apartment. He even complimented her on the unique dress she was wearing, saying it suited her perfectly. Rabura replied playfully, saying Gliese was such a smooth talker. They toasted to the occasion. Rabura said she would go grab some snacks, but Gliese told her he had already brought some. Rabura asked what the snack was called, but Gliese told her she would find out once she tasted it. Rabura took a bite, and Gliese asked how it tasted. Rabura said it had an unusual flavor. Gliese explained that it might be because the product had recently been reformulated. As it turned out, the snack was actually turtle pellets. While the taste was not great, Rabura pretended it was surprisingly delicious and said her body was just reacting to how amazing it was. Gliese offered her more, but Rabura politely declined, saying she was already full. She got up to play some music. Gliese handed her a cassette of the song Can I See Your Bread by She's May. He told her to keep it, but Rabura mentioned she already had a copy. Gliese said he figured she might, since that song was her favorite. Rabura replied that she did not really like the song that much. Noticing Glise's slightly disappointed face, she quickly grabbed the cassette and said she actually loved that song so much that she had played her old tape until it broke, and she was grateful to have a replacement. Gliese stood up and said he was going to get a special gift for her. Rabura waited inside. Suddenly, she smelled something unpleasant. Gliese returned with a Rafflesia flower as a present for Rabura. He asked if there was something wrong with the gift. Rabura said the flower had a very unique smell. Gliese explained that the Rafflesia's scent, which resembled rotting meat, was meant to attract flies to help pollinate it. He asked if Rabura did not like the present. Rabura finally shouted that she could not take it anymore. She felt like Gliese was playing a joke on her. Gliese insisted that he never meant to upset her. He just wanted to make her happy. Yuta was watching the whole thing unfold. Rabura could not believe that Gliese was trying to cheer her up with a corpse-scented flower and turtle pellets. That was when Gliese decided to come clean. He admitted that he had emailed Rabura's friends to ask what she liked, and the answers they gave matched exactly what Rabura had just said earlier. Gliese knew she must be really upset. That moment triggered a memory in Rabura. She shared that something similar had happened to her when she was a child. She was only 5 years old at the time, so her memory was a bit fuzzy. But she recalled waking up in the middle of the night and doing strange things like drawing diagrams, writing down formulas, and jotting down instructions tied to specific dates. She had then faxed all of it to someone. Gliese suggested that this might have been a case of sleepwalking, just like what happened earlier. Rabura apologized for how she had acted. Gliese said he was the one who should be apologizing. Rabura invited him to continue the conversation back inside her apartment. That was when Gliese told Rabura that he could not keep lying to her. He was ready to tell her the truth. Rabura smiled and asked if he was not an alien, was he? Gliese replied that no, he was not from outer space, but he was from the Intelligence Bureau of the United States Department of Defense. He was actually a security agent. Yuta was stunned to witness the revelation. Gliese was certain that Rabura knew about the hostage situation involving the Kyumei group, as well as the video warning about it. Rabura mentioned the video that explained an asteroid was going to hit Earth on New Year's Eve, but experts and the government claimed it was impossible. Gliese explained that unless a prevention operation was carried out, the asteroid would still crash into Earth. The United States had secretly launched a military satellite into orbit, equipped with several nuclear missiles. This satellite was controlled by the Air Force Space Command, or AFSPC. The goal of the prevention operation was to use the missiles to destroy the incoming asteroid. However, the Kyumei group uploaded a virus into the AFSPC server and took over the entire system. Rabura was shocked to hear this. Gliese added that if things continued like this, the missiles wouldn't be able to launch, meaning the real goal of Kyumei was the destruction of humanity. Yuthan was getting more confused about everything because shouldn't the Kyumei group have warned people about the asteroid coming? Rabura then asked Gliese why he was telling her all this. Gliese explained that the Kyumei virus was extremely advanced, something ordinary people couldn't hack, but there was one genius hacker who could. That person was Daihatsu Meika. No one on Earth could remove the virus like Meika could. That was why he had been in contact with her multiple times. Rabara understood that Gliese was trying to use this to his advantage. She got annoyed and asked if Gliese really thought he could get close to Meika just because he was dating her. Gliese begged Rabara not to misunderstand, insisting he was genuinely interested in her. But Rabara was already too angry and questioned Gliese, who had promised to make her happy. She told him not to toy with her feelings. Suddenly, Kenji appeared from the rooftop and said that Gliese was someone who liked to fool around. Gliese asked who Kenji really was. Kenji then asked Gliese if there was an atmosphere in outer space, wanting to hear Glise's opinion. Gliese ran away immediately, with Kenji chasing after him. Gliese managed to jump and land safely, while Kenji fell into the plants below. Kenji used his clam bomb remove and successfully kicked Gliese into the pond. Rabara shouted and threw a Rafflesia flower at Kenji before rushing to help Gliese. She told Gliese to get away while he still could. Rabara warned that if Kenji was serious, he could unleash a lot of power and urged Gliese to run as fast as possible. Gliese left, promising to repay Rabara's kindness. Kenji was about to chase after Gliese again, but Rabara hit him with a big fish and kept attacking him. Meika came out, yelling at Rabara about what she was doing to Kenji. She pushed Rabara down, which confused Rabara. Meika explained that Kenji was someone who could be trusted. Then, she ordered Kenji to capture Gliese. Kenji quickly left to do so. Meika challenged Rabara to a fight and Rabara happily accepted. She kicked Meika into the pond. Ito and Mikatan shouted for them to stop fighting. Yuthan didn't know what to do about the girls' quarrel. Meanwhile, Chiranosuke was excited, calling it a splash or a girls' swim meet. They looked very stunning, but Yuthan tried hard not to look. Mikatan asked why Rabara and Meika were fighting. Rabara explained that it was because Meika was protecting Kenji, whom she called Mia Ken. Meika then asked why Rabara was so upset with Kenji. Rabara said that Meika would never understand human feelings because she was a robot. Meika responded by asking if Rabara didn't find Gliese, who acted like an old man, to be a poor match for her. Mikatan tried to persuade both of them to make peace. She then asked Mui if he agreed that they should reconcile. Meika started to suspect that maybe Mui was the root of the problem because Ito had brought him here. However, Ito didn't pick Mui up. Instead, Mui was given to her by Rabara's younger brother, Chichibu Rahandao. Rabara was surprised to hear Ito say that. Ito explained that Rahando suddenly came to her room a month ago and asked her to take care of the bear cub temporarily. Rabara suspected Ito was lying and Ito got annoyed, saying all that talk from psychics was nonsense. Rabara got angry and told Ito that kids who don't want to go to school shouldn't say things like that. Ito got frustrated and called Rabara a liar. Reflexively, Rabara slapped Ito. Mikatan was confused, wondering why they were acting like this when they had been so close just yesterday. Rabara then wanted to leave, apologizing for not being able to get along with everyone because she had a lot on her mind. Meika guessed it was definitely because of Gliese that Rabara was troubled. Rabara said that Meika was lucky not to have any burdens, and that the fate of humanity was probably not something Meika needed to worry about. Meika didn't understand why Rabara said that, but didn't push the matter and went to her room. Mikatan asked Ito to forgive Rabara and Meika because, deep down, they were both good people. Ito, however, asked Mikatan why she was acting like a goody two-shoes and warned her not to try being a hero. Mikatan felt sad and didn't expect Ito to say that. Ito added that Mikatan should understand the situation by now since she was supposed to be a hero. Then Ito left Mikatan's room. Mikatan started crying after hearing Ito's words and suddenly felt tightness in her chest. She quickly took her medicine and began singing a magical song. Yuthan was surprised to see Mikatan crying, and it seemed like he was reminded of someone when he heard her sing the magical song. Yuthan's spirit saw Ito lying unconscious in the cold snow. He felt heartbroken because ever since he became a spirit, all he could do was watch. He couldn't do anything to help. He started crying and blamed himself for everything that happened. Then Chiranosuke appeared and said that humans were selfish. He pointed out that people didn't care when 7 billion others died, but would cry when just one person passed away. Yuthan got frustrated and said that what Chiranosuke said didn't make any sense. Chiranosuke then called Yuthan a cold-hearted person. That made Yuthan angry and tried to punch Chiranosuke, but of course his punch didn't land. Chiranosuke calmly told him that it wasn't that he couldn't do anything, it was that he chose not to. Tears still streaming down his face, Yuthan asked what he was even supposed to do now. That's when it hit him, maybe the answer was to go back in time. Chiranosuke confirmed his hunch. He said that with Yuthan's current level of power, he had the ability to do just that. He could land on any time-space slope he wanted. But to make it happen, Yuthan would need one thing: a strong, unwavering will to save someone. Without that will, Yuthan would bounce off the curved surface of time-space and would never be able to return to this world. Yuthan accepted the risk. Chiranosuke urged him to form that strong desire deep within his soul, and Yuthan made a promise to himself. He was going to protect Ito, no matter what. Yuthan successfully went back to December 29 at 9:25 p.m. He entered Ito's room and saw her opening an email from someone. The message named the next victim, Reishi Moana. It also told Ito to go to the Ishinogari shrine at 10 p.m. if she didn't want to lose another classmate. Ito blamed herself for everything that had happened. Kurinosuke reminded Yuthan that he already knew what was coming next. Ito would go to the shrine, just like the email asked, and she would die there. Yuthan was convinced that whoever sent the email must be the killer, though he had no idea why they were doing this. Kurinosuke told him that no matter what the reason was, the only thing Yuthan needed to worry about now was making sure Ito didn't go to that shrine. There were only 30 minutes left before it happened. Yuthan suddenly heard Rabura knocking on Mikatan's door. He went to Mikatan's room. When Rabura came inside, Meika immediately stood up to leave. Mikatan asked why she was leaving so soon, and Meika replied that the air in the room felt heavy. Even though Meika and Rabura kept arguing, Yuthan walked over to Mikatan's kitchen shelf and grabbed some cinnamon powder. Mikatan asked Rabura why she and Meika couldn't just get along, but Rabura didn't answer. Instead, she asked Mikatan about a protective charm that was sitting in her room. That's when Yuthan spilled the cinnamon powder. The sound caught Mikatan and Rabura's attention. Rabura wondered if it might be another case of floating objects like before. When they opened the kitchen door, they started coughing from the cinnamon particles in the air. At that moment, Yuthan possessed Rabura again. She collapsed for a moment, unconscious, but then stood back up, now under Yuthan's control. Yuthan, speaking through Rabura, told Mikatan that Ito's life was in danger. Meika grumbled about Rabura and headed back to her own room, but was startled when she turned around and found Ito standing right behind her. Ito asked Meika to take care of Muhi for a little while, which caught Meika completely off guard. Meanwhile, Rabura, still possessed by Yuthan, told Mikatan about the video that listed the names of people who were going to be killed. Mikatan said they should hurry and go to Ito's room right away. But before they could, Yuthan's time inside Rabura's body ran out and his spirit was forced to leave her. Rabura fell down and landed on her chest, then rolled around in pain. Meanwhile, Mikatan ran into Ito on the stairs and asked where she was going, but Ito didn't answer. Instead, Ito asked Mikatan not to get in her way. Mikatan refused and told her that she had seen the video and knew about the email. Ito ran onto the balcony, with Mikatan chasing after her. Ito begged Mikatan not to come any closer. She said that no matter what happened, she would still go because everything was her fault. 2 of her friends had died because of her. As Ito walked backward, she slipped and nearly fell, but Mikatan managed to catch her just in time. Ito asked her to let go, but Mikatan held on tightly. She kept insisting that Ito must not go to the shrine. Ito told her not to interfere, but Mikatan started crying, saying that it was her business, because Ito was a precious friend to her. Touched by Mikatan's tears, Ito softened. Later, Mikatan gently dried Ito's hair while singing a song. Ito asked what song she was singing. Mikatan told her it was a magic song that always cheered her up, something she had learned from someone named Ishigata. Curious, Ito asked who Ishigata was. Mikatan explained that Ishigata was a researcher at a place called Yuba Lab, where Mikatan had been born and raised. The lab studied things like genetics. There, Mikatan wasn't alone. 2 other children, a boy and a girl, had grown up alongside her. They had always been close and helped her a lot. Back then, Chioko had been captured to be used in an experiment. Yuriko and Pine saw what was happening. Pine stepped in, demanding Chioko's release, but the researcher refused, saying that the children had the ability called eubification, that they had never used it. The only way to find out the truth, he said, was to open their heads and examine their brains. Pine got angry and tried to fight back, but the researcher knocked her down with a kick, causing her to fall and hit her head. Yuriko quickly rushed over to wake Pine up. The researcher yelled, accusing Pine of damaging his precious experiment. Pine, still unwilling to let Chioko be taken, became furious and unleashed her powers. The researcher was thrilled to see that Pine had finally used eubification. Ito, still curious, asked Mikatan if she had feelings for the boy from the lab. Embarrassed, Mikatan asked why Ito was suddenly asking such a thing. Ito just said it seemed pretty obvious. Turning the question around, Mikatan asked if there was someone Ito liked or cared about. Ito explained that it wasn't about liking someone romantically, but there was a person who was really special to her homeroom teacher. Even though he was a teacher, he felt more like a good friend. One night, it was late after school, and her homeroom teacher offered to give her a ride home because he was worried about her safety. But one of her classmates saw them. The next day, no one at school would speak to Ito. It turned out that there was a student who had a crush on the teacher, and she happened to be one of the most influential students at school. From then on, things started going downhill. The bullying escalated quickly. Ito lost count of how many times she had to buy new school slippers. Her textbooks and notebooks kept getting ruined to the point where she had to throw them away and start over. During PE class, she had to wear her sportswear all day because someone had stolen her skirt. Even her underwear went missing during swimming lessons. As awful as all that was, it didn't stop there. One day, Moana stuck gum in Ito's hair, and then she and her friends cut off Ito's long hair until it was very short. That was the moment Ito decided to stop going to school. Despite all of this, her homeroom teacher continued to be kind to her. Mika-tan asked if she had ever reported what happened to her teacher. Ito said no, she didn't want to be a burden to him. That's when the video was made, the one that listed the names of the victims. Ito was the one who created it. The names written in it were the same people who had bullied her. Ito only wanted to scare them a little, so she uploaded the video online. However, the name Ito that appeared at the end of the video wasn't added by her. Someone else had edited it. The person behind this was the one who had killed Mayiko and Moana. Mika-tan was surprised that Ito hadn't told her about it from the beginning. Ito couldn't admit what had happened at school, mostly because she was afraid she would look foolish and pathetic. She wasn't a loner or shy. If she had wanted to, she could have made new friends easily. But Ito had wanted to show them something, even though she knew that no one was really thinking about her. After watching the video, she cried and felt scared. But every time she saw those people smiling, it all felt fake to her. Mika-tan hugged Ito and comforted her. Mika-tan stood for justice, and she was also on Ito's side. No matter what happened, Mika-tan was going to protect her. The clock showed 10:20 p.m., and it seemed like history had just changed. Yuthan managed to save Ito. But when Shiranosuke noticed that Yuthan didn't seem happy, he asked what was wrong. Yuthan was deep in thought. He still didn't know who the culprit was. That afternoon on December 30th, Meika was checking the satellite while Mui clung to her back. Ito walked up and said it looked like Meika and Mui were really close. Meika, clearly annoyed, said Mui was the one sticking to her for no reason. She tried to shake him off, but Mui refused to let go. Ito teased them, pointing out that they had been together all night. Then she asked Meika why she even bothered to take care of Mui. Mui kept licking Meika's cheek. Meika explained that she was simply returning the favor. Mui had saved her life once. Ito asked what Meika was doing there. Meika explained that she had detected interference in the satellite connection and came to investigate. Then Meika asked Ito what she was doing there. Ito said she had actually come to get Mui, but changed her mind and left. Meika yelled after her, frustrated, and telling her to take Mui back with her. There was just one day left before New Year's Eve. Ito asked Mika-tan what she was doing. Mika-tan said she was dealing with a bit of a problem. The spirit of Yuthan showed up as Mika-tan was gathering some medicine. Suddenly, a loud noise came from upstairs. Ito and Mika-tan rushed to find the source. They were shocked to find Meika tied up with duct tape over her mouth. Ito immediately started looking for Mui, while Mika-tan peeled off the tape. Meika apologized, explaining that the man had taken Mui. He was the Turtle Man, the same man who had come before trying to take Mui. Ito dashed off to find Mui. Meika called after her, saying there was something else she hadn't told her yet. The man had left a message. This was punishment for not showing up the night before. Yuthan finally realized that it had been the Turtle Man who had invited Ito the previous night. That meant he was also the one who had killed Ito's classmates. If Ito met him again, she would be in serious danger. Yuthan's spirit went searching for her. He headed toward the shrine, but she wasn't there. He figured the Turtle Man might be heading there, but Shiranosuke suggested that he might already be on the move. Yuthan grew frustrated and asked Shiranosuke why he was acting so relaxed. Shiranosuke replied, suggesting that Yuthan could try trapping him instead. That gave Yuthan an idea about the email. He replied to Ito's message from the night before, telling the Turtle Man to meet on the upper floor of the Korei dorm, since nobody would be there. After sending the message, a notification popped up saying he had leveled up to Cool Spirit level. Yuthan went to check Mika-tan's kitchen cabinet, hoping to find some cinnamon powder. Unfortunately, it was already gone, even though there had been some left yesterday. His original plan was to borrow Rabura's body to confront the man, but now he had to come up with another strategy. While Meiko was busy fixing herself, Yuthan was trying to figure out what kind of tool could work against the turtle-like man. Maybe a stun gun, or perhaps a mask, as Shiranosuke suggested. Yuthan remembered seeing that tool before. At one point, Meika had shown it to Mika-tan, a mask called the Face Maker, used for disguises. She had demonstrated how it could make her face look like Rabura's. Meika explained that as long as the mask had 3G data of a person's face, it could mimic anyone. It could even change the voice when paired with the Voice Maker. Meika once transformed herself into Ito and imitated her voice perfectly. Yuthan, now in spirit form, came up with a plan. He sent a message to Meika and Rabura, letting them know that the turtle-like man was heading to the upper floor of the Korei dorm and pleaded for their cooperation to stop him. Shiranosuke asked if the plan would actually work. Yuthan was confident that the two of them could pull it off. At the same time, Ito was searching for Mui, calling his name as she looked for him. Meanwhile, Mika-tan was also looking for Ito. The turtle-like man followed the directions from the email and arrived at the scene. Meika and Rabura were watching from above. Rabara referred to the situation as a truce, since they were about to face a fight. Though they seemed united, they briefly turned away from each other as they hadn't been on the best terms. But for now, they had to stick together. Rabara used the two-maker to turn invisible, while Meika used both the face-maker and voice-maker to disguise herself as Ito. She held a stun gun, ready for action. That was Yuthan's plan, and he believed it would succeed. The turtle-like man arrived and immediately realized that the person standing in front of him was not the real Ito. Meika, disguised as Ito, didn't deny it, but he didn't hesitate. He raised his gun and warned her not to play games. Rabara, still invisible, tried to land a surprise attack, but he managed to deflect it. He then ripped off Meika's mask, revealing her true face. Rabara shouted for him to stop and was even willing to put herself at risk to protect Meika. Meika yelled back, telling Rabara not to do anything reckless and urged her to run. The man shot Meika, and she fell to the ground. He then turned to Rabara and made it clear he wasn't bluffing. To prove his seriousness, he fired into the air, and the shot accidentally hit Kenji, who was trying to make a flashy entrance. Instead, he was struck and collapsed. Meika still held onto the hope that it was all just a trick. Rabara couldn't bear the thought of Meika dying, especially after how harshly she had spoken to her. When the man aimed at Rabara, Meika stepped in to shield her, getting hit once again and collapsing. Yuthan couldn't believe how his carefully planned strategy had spiraled into chaos. Rabara screamed in anguish, unable to accept Meika's condition. Meanwhile, Kenji was lying weakly in the snow. Ito spotted him and rushed to his side, urging him to hold on. As she lifted his head to support him, her short skirt slightly revealed the top edge of her underwear, unintentionally triggering a reaction in Kenji. That sudden surge of emotion allowed him to regain his strength and unleash his power. Kenji Miyazawa suddenly came back to life with full strength after being unexpectedly energized when he caught a glimpse of Ito's underwear as she was trying to help him. Just as a man was about to shoot Rabara, Kenji appeared and launched a powerful campanella kick at him. The kick was so strong that the man was sent flying. Confused as to how Kenji could get back up, the man was surprised to learn that Kenji had a clairvoyant ability and had prepared by wearing a bulletproof shield under his clothes, so the bullet had no effect on him. The man quickly stood up and tried to fire again, but Strange Juice appeared just in time to stop him. Kenji and Strange Juice teamed up to face the man. Based on numbers alone, Kenji was confident that they could win. However, the man then revealed his true power. He could perform a Yubification transformation just like Kenji and Strange Juice, but at a manifestation rate of 2,000%. Kenji didn't care about that. He and Strange Juice charged at the man together, but they were immediately knocked back. Kenji was thrown so hard he crashed into Rabara. Strange Juice demanded to know the man's true purpose. He replied that his goal was to create an ideal world by eliminating what he called inferior humanity and replacing it with a world ruled only by the superior W. Strange Juice had no idea what W he was talking about. As he aimed his weapon at her, Ito stepped in to protect her. The man told Ito to move out of the way, but she refused. She pleaded with him to stop all of this. The man insisted she was just getting in the way and threatened to kill her. But suddenly, he doubled over in pain. A battle seemed to erupt in his mind. One voice said it wouldn't allow him to act recklessly anymore. Another asked why he was hesitating when everything was finally going according to plan. Yet another voice urged him not to hurt Ito. These conflicting voices argued endlessly, tormenting him and leaving Yuthan even more confused. Then Kenji called out to Yuthan asking for his help. At first, Yuthan didn't realize Kenji was speaking to him. He was stunned that he could even see him. Kenji told him not to ask questions and tossed him a small bottle filled with cinnamon powder. Yuthan rushed to Rabara's side and Kenji hurled the bottle. The cinnamon powder burst into the air. Rabara suddenly regained consciousness. Upon seeing her own underwear, she sprang into action and launched a fierce kick at the man. Surprised, the man wondered how Rabara could also perform a Yubification. Rabara struck him again and again, slapping, stomping, and finally slamming him into the ground. When the man asked how she was able to transform, she simply answered that she did it because she wanted to. With a final punch, she sent him flying. A cloud of black smoke burst from his body, revealing what looked like a spirit escaping him. At the same moment, Yuthan's spirit also separated from Rabara's body. Rabara was confused by everything that had just happened and immediately ran over to check on Meika, who was lying motionless. She broke down in tears, begging Meika to wake up. Meika slowly opened her eyes and asked why Rabara was crying so much, which only made Rabara sob louder. Meanwhile, Mui approached Ito, and she wrapped her arms around him in relief. Now it was time to reveal the man behind the mask. Strange Juice removed it, and everyone was shocked. Underneath the costume was Tomoto Chihaya, their high school homeroom teacher. Meika couldn't believe a teacher would do something like that. Chihaya admitted he had done everything because he had deep feelings for Ito. Everyone was stunned, and Ito herself didn't know what to say. Blinded by love, Chihaya had edited the video and sent the email to Ito. Ito asked if that meant Chihaya was also the one who had taken the lives of Meiko and Moana. Chihaya confessed that he had been possessed by the spirit of Tsubuchi Kyumai, the leader of the Kyumai group. It was Kyumai who had committed those acts. Everyone was shocked by this confession. Strange Juice was still trying to understand the situation. Chihaya explained that he had made a contract with the spirit of Tsubuchi Kyumai in exchange for having his own wish granted. In return, Kyumai had taken control of Chihaya's body. Chihaya's wish was to take revenge. He already knew that Ito had been harassed at school, and he could not forgive those who did it. Even though he was destined to be with Ito, their classmates kept getting in the way. When Ito asked what he was talking about, Chihaya told her not to hide her feelings. He also said that he knew she loved him, and in return for her love, he punished them. According to him, it was a test of love, and he wondered if he was wrong to do it. Meika got chills hearing Chihaya say that. Rabara then said that the spirit of Tsubuchi Kyumai must have been inside Chihaya's body. But Chihaya denied it, saying that Kyumei's body was no longer of any use to him. Meika understood that this was the result of yubification, more precisely, yubiminchification. When someone was infected by a virus called the Hercules virus, the body would undergo an epigenetic effect that triggered gene switches. This would lead to a change in body composition and allow the person to gain strength beyond their normal physical limits. However, that power could not last forever. Usually, there was a limiter, and the condition when that limiter disappeared was what they called yubification. It carried a massive risk. Repeated use could lead to severe damage, growth suppression, and even death. That was what had happened to Tsubuchi Kyumai. The little bear was created to regenerate his body. With this exceptional regenerative ability, he could avoid death and survive routine yubification. Ito was upset and called Chihaya disgusting. Chihaya then asked why she still refused to be honest. He had one last request. He did not want her to die, but Ito kicked Chihaya in the head and told him to stop messing around. She also called him a perverted teacher and said she no longer believed anything he said, even if he was being possessed by a spirit. To her, he was just talking nonsense. She told him straight up that he was annoying. The new year finally came. Mikatan, Meika, Rabara, Ito, and Mui celebrated with Nagashi Soba. Rabara complained about having to celebrate with Nagashi Soba. Mikatan pointed out that Soba was a New Year tradition. But Rabara argued that the real issue was doing Nagashi in the middle of winter. It did not fit the season. Rabara then turned to Ito for her opinion, but Ito said there was nothing wrong with it. With a sulky look on her face, Rabara quietly pulled Meika aside to talk. The two of them moved into another room where Rabara asked about the server issue at AFSP. Meika admitted that she had hacked into the American military's server, but everything still looked normal. Besides, if an asteroid were really going to hit, people all over the world would have been in a panic by now. Meika then invited Rabara to come back and enjoy the New Year celebration, which she called the Maikaman Party. Mikatan sang in front of everyone and Meika and Ito clapped for her. But Rabara said Mikatan's voice did not quite come through. Mikatan was shocked, especially since this was part of her preparation for an upcoming musical. Rabara told her that she was still lacking in femininity. Then she asked if Mikatan had ever been in love. Mikatan replied that maybe she just had not met the right person yet. Ito added that maybe she already had, and it could have been just one person. Right away, Rabara mentioned Yuthan's name and suggested that Mikatan should try falling in love with him. Mikatan instantly blushed and Rabara kept teasing her. Mikatan denied it, flustered. Out of nowhere, Meika said that despite how Yuthan looked, he was actually a girl. Everyone was shocked and hoped Meika was just joking. But Meika explained that biologically, Yuthan was female. She had kept it a secret all this time because it was such a sensitive issue in society. His real name was Iridasu Yu, and Yuthan was a nickname Meika had come up with for him. Rabara asked where Yuthan was since Mikatan had already invited him earlier. She wondered if this might be Mikatan's chance to get closer to him. Ito approached Meika and asked if she had any other secrets or something like that. Ito was curious about Meika and Mikatan's past. Meika then shared a bit of her history with Mikatan. It happened 8 years ago during the summer. On a rainy night, Meika met Mikatan, who was crying in front of her apartment that had just burned down. Meika introduced herself as a robot who came to shelter, raise, and support Mikatan. Mikatan had managed to escape from a certain facility thanks to the help of someone named Ishigata. But their location was discovered and Ishigata had to draw the pursuers away. Because of that, Meika decided to take Mikatan far from Tokyo. They boarded a train heading north and their final stop was a remote mountain area in Omori. They rented an old cabin and started living there. In order to unlock the power hidden inside her, Meika trained her every day. The results finally showed when Mikatan turned 13. One day, while out shopping, she managed to defeat some bullies who were bothering her. After that, she started taking action wherever she could, catching bad guys one by one. The people in Shuguru who saw her started calling her Pantyhose Girl, though Mikatan really didn't like that nickname. Still, it was necessary to protect her real identity. In truth, Mika-tan never wanted to be a hero. Her dream was to become an idol. But Mika told her that she had to let go of that dream and become a hero instead, otherwise the Justice Pinch secret team could never be formed. The name Pantyhose Girl sounded outdated, and Mika-tan hated it. Mika asked her what name she would prefer. Mika-tan wanted to be called Pretty Kitty Moon, but Mika thought it was too long. Still, Mika didn't want to hear any excuses. Mika-tan was destined to be a hero, and there was no running away from it. She gave Mika-tan a brand new costume, and from that moment on, Mika-tan would fight against evil in Tokyo under the name Strange Juice. Ida realized that was the reason why Mika came to the Korei house. Even so, both Mika and Mika-tan were considering putting an end to the whole hero thing, because Mika-tan was a yubification user. Ito grew worried about Mika-tan's physical condition. Mika felt regretful for not noticing sooner, even though they had always been together. Mika-tan and Rabura had just returned from checking Yuthan's room, but he wasn't there. It seemed like he had gone somewhere. Mika then suggested that they go ahead and start the party. She showed them some fireworks they could light up together. They set off the fireworks and celebrated New Year's Eve. Sadly, Yuthan's spirit could only watch from the sidelines. Once they ran out of fireworks, Mika said she still had a giant rocket firework. Rabura was curious. She didn't think there were fireworks that big here. Mika asked them to follow her. Rabura called out to Mika-tan, inviting her to come along. But Mika-tan said she had something to do first and told them to go ahead. Rabura told her not to take too long. Mika-tan waved her hand as they left, but once they were gone, she suddenly collapsed. Yuthan panicked. Mika-tan had forgotten to refill the medicine in her necklace. He didn't know what to do and needed to alert the others quickly. Just then, Kenji appeared carrying the medicine. Meanwhile, Mika showed Rabura and Ito a giant robot she called the Kakumaker. While a Happy Science commercial was playing, the TV suddenly switched to breaking news. It was about an asteroid VR1 that was on a collision course with Earth. Shiranosuke also saw the news. Kenji sang a magical song to Mika-tan and she regained consciousness. She was surprised and asked how Kenji knew that song. From below, Rabura's voice called out to Mika-tan. Kenji told her to go meet up with her friends. Mika-tan promised to listen to the rest of the song later. Kenji then called out to Yuthan and told him to come down. Yuthan asked how Kenji could even see him. Kenji pointed to the sky, showing Yuthan the asteroid that was now heading toward Earth. Yuthan couldn't understand how things had ended up like this, especially since Mika had said there was nothing strange going on with the AFSPC server. And the Kyume group, the ones trying to create W, shouldn't have been finished yet either. Kenji told him he would understand everything once he got back to his body. That only frustrated Yuthan more. Before he could return, he had to find the Nandala Gondala book. Kenji tossed him the book, but when Yuthan opened it, he found just a single word written inside, U-turn. Yuthan thought Kenji was messing with him and assumed the book was a fake. Annoyed, he pointed out that there was only one word in it, but Kenji told him the meaning was exactly what it looked like. That's when Yuthan finally realized it meant going back to the past. Kenji asked him, back to when exactly? Yuthan chose to return to the time before everything had started, December 21st. But Kenji said that wasn't enough. To actually travel back, Yuthan would need something more, a powerful desire to save someone. Kenji then removed his mask, revealing that the body he had been using all this time was actually Yuthan's. He told Yuthan that this version of the future wasn't right. It was a future that should never have happened. He asked Yuthan to change it. Kenji admitted that he had failed in his mission. He had tried so many times but kept making the same mistake. Still, he was ready to hand over all his hopes to Yuthan, because Yuthan also carried everyone else's hopes. He told Yuthan to wish from the deepest part of his heart. If the desire was strong enough, it would give him the strength to change destiny and rewrite history. Yuthan gave it his all. He was determined to change the past for Mika, Rabura, Ito, and Mika-tan. He made a promise to himself that he would protect them, no matter what. And so Kenji left everything in Yuthan's hands. Yuthan decided to go back to the past so he could change history. He promised himself that he would definitely protect his friends. He returned to the moment when he had fainted by the river after the bus incident. When he woke up, he immediately asked Mika-tan what the date was. Mika-tan said it was December 21st, and Yuthan cheered happily because he had successfully gone back in time. That night, Rabura told Mika and Mika-tan about the bus incident from earlier that day. Yuthan came over to join them. Mika-tan asked Yuthan if he was okay. Yuthan said being interrogated by the police was really troublesome, and Rabura had also just been questioned by the police. Mika offered Yuthan some roasted sweet potatoes, which he ate before quietly going into his room. Mika didn't understand what was going on with him. Once inside his room, Yuthan looked at himself in the mirror and even shouted that he had returned. His shout was loud enough to be heard outside. Mika thought his voice was probably due to stress from trauma. Yuthan was very happy, but he knew now was not the time to celebrate. With only 10 days left until New Year's, he started thinking about what he needed to do. First, he planned to write down all the events that were going to happen. On December 23rd, the Joyful Science event and the appearance of Mui. December 24th was the day Tomoto Chihaya, the Turtle Man, attacked. Miyazawa Kenji appeared, and Yuthan fell asleep, missing the Christmas party. On December 26th, Meika's secret as a robot was revealed. December 27th had Glise's visit and another attack by Miyazawa Kenji. On December 29th, Ida was in danger, and on December 30th, Yuthan faced the Turtle Man again. Finally, on December 31st, there was Mikima's party and an asteroid hitting Earth. The important dates were December 24th and 27th, because on those days, Tomoto Chihaya attacked and Glise visited the Korei guest house. Both of those people must know something important, but just thinking about it wouldn't solve anything. Yuthan had to move fast and find them. Suddenly, Chiranosuke appeared and struck Yuthan, sending his body flying. Yuthan was upset and confused about why Chiranosuke was doing this. He also wondered how he could still see Chiranosuke after returning to his body. This happened because Yuthan's spiritual level remained the same, like his soul was still training. Yuthan asked what kind of kick Chiranosuke had just used. It turned out that the kick was a warning. Chiranosuke gave Yuthan a few rules. Rule number 1, Yuthan was not allowed to change history without his permission. Rule number 2, Yuthan must not tell anyone the truth. If the secret got out, the plan would fail, just like Kenji before, whom Yuthan had seen on the rooftop, was actually Yuthan himself from the future. It would still be a problem if he became the next Kenji. Yuthan was still confused about everything. Chiranosuke explained by comparing it to a train running on tracks for the future. If the train kept going, it would reach the worst-case scenario, the asteroid hitting Earth on New Year's Eve. Kenji stopped at that point, but Yuthan had to make it to New Year's Eve without the asteroid hitting. Waiting for him, there was a happy and peaceful future. Leading the world to that future was the main goal of the Human Preservation Project. The plan was to prevent the asteroid from coming to protect humanity from extinction. Yuthan was tasked with not failing this project under any circumstances. This was his destiny. That was why when a spirit saw human underwear, humanity would face extinction. A disembodied spirit was like an egg without a shell, fragile, easily hurt, and sensitive to all kinds of stimuli. If the spirit got excited again, it would be struck by a massive burst of energy, and the body would die. Yuthan would experience something called technobreak. That was the connection between underwear and human extinction. If the spirit saw underwear repeatedly, the person carrying out the project would disappear, and the asteroid would end up hitting Earth. Yuthan asked how he could avoid failure. Chiranosuke then gave him guidance. Chiranosuke instructed Yuthan to place many talismans around his room. Yuthan then asked if that was all, wondering whether repeating the same actions as before would just lead to the same outcome. However, Chiranosuke reassured Yuthan to trust him. With this setup, the Nikoniko Live encoder would run automatically. Chiranosuke also took out the sacred book called Nandala Gondala. When Yuthan opened the book, he fell silent. Chiranosuke asked if Yuthan had forgotten what was written inside. Yuthan remembered the word was U-turn, but he didn't want to write it down because it felt like admitting defeat. He planned to use the book only if he failed, but this time he was confident he wouldn't, so he didn't need to write it. A knock sounded at the door and Yuthan quickly opened it. Mikaton appeared, surprised to see many talismans stuck all over the room. Yuthan explained that they were just part of the room's interior design. He then asked why Mikaton had come to see him. Mikaton said there was a kanji character in a manuscript she didn't understand. She stepped closer to Yuthan and showed him the kanji written in her book. Yuthan suggested that it might mean meeting, unexpected encounter, or chance crossing paths. Mikaton complimented Yuthan on his knowledge. Yuthan asked why she was asking him. At that moment, Chiranosuke appeared and said that Yuthan was not paying attention. He added that Mikaton had come to check on Yuthan's condition. She also knew about the incidents on the bus and by the river. She basically knew everything. Yuthan got annoyed and told Chiranosuke to be quiet. Mikaton thought Yuthan was yelling at her, but actually he hadn't said anything to her all along. Mikaton then thanked Yuthan for teaching her and left right away. Not long after, Meika opened Yuthan's door and handed him a bottle with a drink. She knew Yuthan was exhausted. The drink was a special blend made by Meika herself, designed to boost nutrition when the body is tired. She called it the Genki Maker. However, to Yuthan, the drink looked like poison. Meika joked that fighting poison with poison was exactly what it was, so it must be poison. She then asked if the book Yuthan was holding was Mikaton's lyric manuscript. Yuthan confirmed it was hers and said he had forgotten to bring it back. Meika took the book, promising to return it to Mikaton. Yuthan sat back down, but suddenly he heard a commotion upstairs. He recalled that moment when Chiranosuke showed the Nikoniko Live video to Yuthan's spirit. So that was how everything had unfolded. Yuthan kept thinking about what his next move should be. He remembered that his spirit couldn't handle the stimulus from seeing underwear lines, so he needed to act quickly to prevent that from happening again. Yuthan went to Ito's room and noticed that his spirit had already entered. Ito, who had just been in the bathroom, was about to come out to get shampoo. Yuthan knew this was a bad situation, so he tried to hold the bathroom door shut. Ito struggled to open the door and ended up forcefully breaking it down. When the door finally opened, Ito saw Yuthan lying on the floor. Yuthan was shocked to see Ito's underwear lines, and Ito got angry. She threw things at Yuthan and called him a pervert. Yuthan ran into Mikotan's room. At that moment, Mikotan was hopping up and down, trying to reach a book on the top shelf, her lyrics book. Yuthan quickly bumped into Mikotan to prevent his spirit from seeing her underwear. Meanwhile, Rabara was asking Meika for some salt, but Meika had run out. So Meika planned to ask Mikotan for some salt instead. Hearing this, Meika handed Mikotan's book to Rabara for safekeeping. When Yuthan bumped into Mikotan, his hand accidentally landed on her chest. Ito woke up startled and immediately pushed Yuthan away. Yuthan's spirit saw this and shouted at him to return to his body. Yuthan then ran down the hall and accidentally collided with Rabara. He apologized and went back to his room. His spirit tried to follow him, but when it reached the door, it was pushed back by a charm inside Yuthan's room. Yuthan realized he had slightly changed history. Rabira became curious about what had really happened. She got up and noticed she might have grabbed the wrong book. There were many of Ito's books scattered along the hallway after she had pushed Yuthan away. Mikotan told Rabira that the book she was looking for wasn't the one she had. Rabira was sure the books got mixed up during the collision with Yuthan. Yuthan overheard this and immediately placed the correct book near Mikotan's door. Now Yuthan understood the details of what had happened. On December 22nd, Yuthan had traveled far but got no results. He couldn't get into Kumei's gang headquarters because of the police and reporters there, and he couldn't find Tomoda Chihaya either. Yuthan called Rabura and asked if she was going to have dinner. Rabura was surprised because it was only 4:30 p.m. and wondered why he asked. Yuthan changed his question and asked if she was going ghost hunting. Rabura was shocked and wondered how he knew about that. Yuthan got nervous and said he wanted to ask her something, specifically how to contact Lise. Rabura was also surprised that he knew about Lise. Suddenly, a man walked past them. Yuthan recognized him as Tomoda Chihaya, Ito's homeroom teacher, who glanced back at him. Yuthan called out his name and ran after him. Tomoda didn't understand why Yuthan was chasing him, but just as he was about to catch him, Chiriganosuke appeared and kicked Yuthan away. Chiriganosuke reminded Yuthan not to change history without his permission. He explained that cooperation among the inhabitants was necessary for the human preservation project. Chiriganosuke asked Yuthan to recall past events about the Joy Science movie, the reveal of Meika and Mikotan's identities, and all the fights. Each of those moments brought them closer together, which was crucial for the project. To build those bonds, history needed to be repeated at certain points. Yuthan then asked what would happen if he failed to maintain the timeline. Chiriganosuke said that so far, Yuthan had already repeated history 6,373,153,740 times, often breaking the rules and failing. If this time Yuthan wanted to become number 6,373,153,741, Chiriganosuke gave him free rein, but warned that this was the only warning to prevent future versions of Yuthan from appearing. If Yuthan failed this project, everything would be over. However, Chiriganosuke himself was different. He still had a next chance, or maybe a next self. Yuthan asked why he became a spirit in the first place. Chiriganosuke was annoyed that Yuthan didn't know. It was because the spirit of Yuthan from the future had possessed his body, pushing his original spirit out. Yuthan asked if it was the same when he possessed Rabura's body. Chiriganosuke said it was not the same since Rabura's spirit was still inside her body at that time. Yuthan was confused why only he experienced it like that. It turned out it was because he was undergoing eubiffication when he fainted by the river. When subconscious eubiffication can bring out conscious thoughts, it causes spirits to easily become detached. Chiriganosuke asked Yuthan to recall the summer 9 years ago. At that time, the 3 young children from Yuba Lab, Chiyoko, Pinang, and Kuriko, were taken by Ichigata. Ichigata apologized, feeling guilty for having been an accomplice in a project involving those 3 children. To make amends, he decided to run away with them, hoping to end things properly. The car they were driving sped through the night because 2 other vehicles were chasing them. Due to the dark and heavy rain, Ichigata did not see a large vehicle in front of them. Their car crashed and fell into a river. When Yuthan, then a child named Pine, woke up, he was at a house accompanied by a woman. The woman explained that her grandfather had rescued him and brought him home. The grandfather had found the child lying on the riverbank. The woman introduced herself as Iridatsu Akina. Pine shook her hand, but when she looked into the mirror in front of her, she was shocked to see that she had become Chiyoko. Before the 3 children fell into the dam, they had undergone eubiffication. They were struck by lightning, causing their souls to swap bodies. Guriko's soul entered Pine's body. Chiyoko's soul went into Guriko's body, and Pine's soul entered Chiyoko's body. Suddenly, someone knocked on Yuthan's room door. When Yuthan opened it, Ito was there, holding a package delivered earlier that day while Yuthan was out. The package came from Iridatsu Akina, who Yuthan referred to as his older sister. He had a bad feeling about the package's contents. After opening it, Yuthan found the hero costume inside. The costume had the phrase "not defeated by the rain" written on it. This costume was the one he would later wear when becoming Miyazawa Kenji. Chiranosuke gave Yuthan 2 important rules to follow during his journey back in time. Rule number 1. Yuthan is not allowed to change history without Chiranosuke's permission. Rule number 2. He must not tell anyone the truth. A simple way to understand it is like this. Imagine a train running on tracks heading toward the future. If the train keeps going without any changes, it will eventually reach the worst possible outcome, an asteroid crashing into Earth on New Year's Eve. Yuthan's mission is to reach the new year without letting the asteroid hit. What's waiting at the end of that path is a future filled with peace and happiness. Guiding the world toward that future is the ultimate goal of the Human Preservation Project. No matter what, Yuthan must succeed. That's his destiny. Chiranosuke also gave him one more warning. There won't be another version of himself after this. It's now December 23rd. 2 days have passed since Yuthan returned to the past, and so far nothing has changed. A scream coming from Ito's room made Meika rush out and bang on her door. She asked what that noise was. Ito said it was her own scream. Yuthan heard it too and suddenly remembered. This incident happened on the 23rd. Yuthan was reading a letter from a package sent by his older sister, Akina. She had found something cute and decided to send it to him. It was sold at a party supply store. At the same time, Mui was scratching the wood floor in Ito's room, Mikatam was baking an apple pie, and Rabara was drunk. Yuthan kept reading Akina's letter. She asked him to read a poem online titled Emu ni Mome Kazu. The poem talks about staying strong against the rain, wind, snow, and the heat of summer, having a strong body, not giving in to desire, and not getting angry. Yuthan opened the package and found a hero costume inside, but it looked like he wasn't interested in wearing it. Meanwhile, the man in the turtle costume had taken Mui. Kenji showed up, calling out to him like a hero. Rabara thought Kenji was acting weird. The man asked why Kenji wasn't attacking. Kenji replied that he already knew he would lose and didn't want to feel pain. The man hit him first. Kenji said he wasn't ready, but the man was way too fast. Nobody ever really noticed Kenji. He was never praised or blamed. But even after getting beaten badly and kicked into a pool, he didn't give up. He had made a decision to do this, no matter what, to guide the world toward the best peaceful future possible. The turtle man didn't understand what Kenji meant. Kenji asked for 20 seconds. The man wanted to know why he should wait. Was there a reward? Kenji said yes, then ran to room 102. Suddenly, Meika asked him for help removing the two-maker device from her body. Kenji did it and accidentally caught a glimpse of her underwear. That triggered his power. He told the man to wait and freed Mui. But when he turned around, the man was gone. Kenji immediately gave chase. Rabara and Ito noticed how different Kenji seemed now. Kenji wondered if it was okay to keep going like this, since he was breaking Chiranosuke's first rule, changing history without permission. So far, 6,373,153,740 others had broken that rule and failed. Kenji had no choice but to fight. He couldn't let the man escape again. The man cried out in pain. Kenji said it shouldn't be a problem, since Tsubuchi Kyumei was using someone else's body anyway. The man was shocked that Kenji knew who he was. He asked who Kenji really was. Kenji said it didn't matter. What mattered was the real reason asteroid VR1 was going to hit Earth. Kyumei acted confused, but Kenji could tell he was faking it. When Kyumei tried to attack again, Kenji punched first. Kyumei laughed and said he and his group had no plans to drop the asteroid, at least not yet. Kenji then asked why Dio still wasn't finished. Kyumei explained that completing W requires the regeneration of the bear cub. Kenji said that he heard the bear cub originally belonged to the Kyumei group. The man asked how Kenji knew that, but Kenji did not answer. The man confirmed that the bear cub was indeed his creation from the Uber laboratory. He said Kenji knew everything because Kenji was also a user of Uberification. The Uberification lab belonged to the Kyumei group. He was the one who created the Uberification prophecy and designed the Hercules virus. Kenji was furious at Tsubuchi Kyumei, blaming him for everything that had happened to him and the others in the past. The man said there was no point in hurting his current body. Kenji asked why Tsubuchi Kyumei did all of this. Tsubuchi Kyumei replied that Kenji would never understand his ancestral philosophy, which stated, humanity must evolve into a perfect form. That is the only way to bring peace to the world. That was also why he created the Kyumei group. When he displayed the miraculous power of Uberification, foolish people followed him with wide-eyed wonder, all desiring that power. Kenji believed that something about it was wrong. Tsubuchi Kyumei insisted that evolution meant surpassing one's current form. and that Kenji had already taken his first step. He then asked Kenji why he did not just return to his side. Kenji was irritated by his words. Subochi said he had been waiting for Kenji to come back. The man then let out a loud scream, and Subochi Kumai's spirit suddenly separated from his body. A moment later, he was shocked and cried out in pain. Rabara could not believe that strange juice was actually Mika-tan. Mika-tan smiled awkwardly. Then Kenji entered the room, surprising everyone. Mika-tan quickly tried to hide her face. Rabara even thought that the man from earlier had returned. Kenji said that the man was now in the hospital and had been taken there by ambulance. He asked Mika-tan not to hide her face anymore, as he had already known her true identity for a while. Ito asked who Kenji really was. Kenji then introduced himself as the superhero savior, Miyazawa Kenji. Ito and Rabara immediately turned to Mika-tan, but Mika-tan insisted that she had nothing to do with Kenji. Kenji then called out to Meika because he wanted to speak with her. He carried Meika to her room as she had been badly damaged from being struck by the man earlier. Kenji wanted to help repair her. He explained that because of the blow, Meika's fusion reactor had been damaged. Kenji pulled back her blanket and began the repair. Meika asked how Kenji knew that she was a robot. Kenji replied that if he had to explain, he would say it was probably fate. Meika immediately trusted him. Kenji was surprised that she believed him so easily, wondering why she was not more suspicious. Meika said that even though she was curious, she trusted him more than she doubted him. Professor Daihatsu Tenga, Meika's creator, whom she called grandfather, had once told her about Kenji before he passed away. At the time, her grandfather told her that he probably would not be around much longer. He told her not to cry and asked if she remembered his 3 final wishes. Meika recited the wishes. The first was to protect a girl named Chiyoko and raise her to become a hero. The second was to create a secret organization called Justice Punch together with Chiyoko. Her grandfather said that one day, Justice Punch would save the world because it was the will of the heavens, and he told her never to forget that. After that, he passed away. Kenji asked what the third wish was. Meika explained that one day, a hero in a ridiculous costume would appear before her, and her grandfather had asked her to trust him because he was not a bad person. That hero, her grandfather said, would also be a member of Justice Punch. Kenji was stunned to realize he had been chosen as a member of Justice Punch. Meika told him that 2 more members were still to come. The word punch in Justice Punch came from the Indian word for 5, meaning 5 heroes of justice. Kenji speculated that perhaps the other 2 members could be Ito and Rabara, though he was unsure about them. The repairs were finally done, and Meika thanked Kenji. Kenji asked Meika how Professor Tenga could have known about the future. Meika introduced a device called Reizuko, which roughly translated to underworld graphic communication, a machine that functioned like a fax machine. Meika admitted she did not fully understand how it worked, but said that one day Professor Tenga claimed to have received a fax from the future. That reminded Kenji of something Rabara had once said, how when she was a child, she used to draw diagrams, write equations, and follow specific instructions on certain dates. She would then fax those to someone. The next day, Chiranosuke scolded Yuthun for breaking Tomoda's arms and legs. Chiranosuke reminded him that he had broken Code 1, never alter history without his permission. Yuthun said he had no choice. He couldn't just let Tomoda go, knowing that if he did, Tomoda would end up killing 2 of Ito's classmates. Chiranosuke was frustrated, especially since the people Yuthun tried to protect were the same ones who had treated Ito terribly. Yuthun got upset too. Just because they had done bad things didn't mean he was going to let them die. Chiranosuke told him that when the goal is saving 7 billion lives, a small sacrifice shouldn't matter that much. Without saying anything more, Yuthun walked away, not sure where he was going next. Then he remembered Mui, the creature Rohandao had entrusted to Ito. Yuthun headed to Ito's room, but it seemed like she wasn't home. He heard Mui making noise from inside the kotatsu, a heated table. Peeking in, he found Mui stuck and quickly helped free him. Just then, Ito came in from outside, clearly cold, and instinctively slid her legs into the kotatsu. That's when Yuthun accidentally caught a glimpse of her underwear. The sight startled him, triggering his powers. But Ito was furious. She punched him immediately and called him a pervert. Yuthun tried to explain it was a misunderstanding. He insisted he wasn't a pervert. It was the bear's fault. He told her that Mui had been moving around weirdly inside the kotatsu, which is why he'd looked. Ito asked how Yuthun even knew about Mui. He said he heard it from Rabara, then added that Rabara's lips were like helium, always leaking secrets. He described her as someone who just couldn't keep her mouth shut. Then Yuthun asked if she knew where Rabara's younger brother was. Ito looked confused, wondering why Yuthun suddenly cared about that. Yuthun said he had some business with him. Ito told him he should just ask Rabara directly. Yuthun figured Rabara wouldn't tell him, joking that her lips were as heavy as if they were stuck with some kind of metal. Ito pointed out that he had just said her lips were like helium, and now he was saying the opposite. Yuthun awkwardly begged her to help him instead. Ito finally said that Rabara's younger brother, Chikibu Rahando, was actually coming over later that afternoon to check on Mui. When Rando arrived, he explained that he used to be a devoted follower of the Kyumei group, a pretty extreme one in fact. Their leader, Tsubuchi Kyumei, had taken a special interest in Rahando and entrusted him with the care of Mui. Rahando was supposed to transport Mui from a research facility deep in the Nagano Mountains to their Tokyo headquarters. But instead of following those orders, Rahando took Mui to Korei dorm and left him with Ito. Yuthan asked why Rahando would go against his orders like that. Rahando explained that he did it to stop the project. Without Mui, they couldn't complete something called W. Yuthan was surprised since Rahando had been such a devoted Kyumei follower. Rahando described his experience as being like the day before a school trip, exciting, full of anticipation. But then, the Kyumei group had brainwashed him into believing that feeling wasn't real. When that excitement finally did become real, it made him question everything, and he turned his back on the organization. Yuthan then asked what happened after Rahando left Mui with Ito. Rahando said he drove back to the mountain facility and purposely crashed into a guardrail to make it look like Mui had escaped in an accident. But the injuries on his body weren't from the crash. They were punishment from the Kyumei group for letting Mui get away. Eventually, Rahando left the group for good, though the cost was high. Rabara ended up paying for his expensive withdrawal from the organization. Tonight is Christmas Eve, and the residents of the Korei dorm are throwing a Christmas party. Rabara is singing while the others snack and enjoy the festive mood together. Ito asks Meika if she is really Strange Juice's right-hand woman. Meika replies that her alias is actually Pumpkin Chair and her role is as a mechanical engineer. Ito then wonders if Meika is the one who made Strange Juice's costume. Meika confirms it and then turns to Mikatan, asking if she had just gone on a mission without her shorts. Mikatan admits it, explaining that they no longer fit. They've gotten too tight, and she's confident she'll slim down again soon. Meika finds that hard to believe considering how much Mikatan usually eats. They all burst into cheerful singing together. This time it's Yuta's turn to sing, but he hasn't sung yet. Mikatan encourages him to join in, but Yuta refuses. Everyone insists, reminding him that it's tradition for everyone in Korei dorm to sing. Yuta keeps saying no and explains that no matter how much they try to persuade him, he just can't sing. But eventually, Yuta ends up singing with them after all. Mikatan cheers, saying Korei dorm is the best. Then, teasingly, Rabara lifts up Mikatan's skirt for fun, revealing her underwear. Mikatan quickly takes a photo in response while Yuta immediately covers his eyes, afraid of getting too flustered again. They all laugh together. Mikatan wonders aloud when they'll have another party like this. Ito says the next celebration will be on New Year's Eve. Mikatan excitedly hopes for something that will make their hearts race. Yuta suggests a fireworks party. Mikatan agrees, delighted by the idea of watching fireworks in the cold winter air. It's that contrast that makes her love the idea even more. Later, Mikatan pulls Yuta aside for a private conversation. She wants to thank him for saving her from the bus hijacking the other day. Yuta tells her she doesn't need to thank him. Mikatan adds that ever since she met Yuta, she's felt something like a strange sense of nostalgia. She quickly apologizes for saying something so odd and walks off. Suddenly, she collapses. Yuta rushes to help her right away. While talking privately with Yuthan, Mikatan shared that she had been feeling something ever since she first met him, something that felt oddly nostalgic. She apologized for suddenly saying something so strange, then turned around to leave, but just as she did, her body gave out and she collapsed. Yuthan panicked and rushed to help her. He checked the medicine stored in the necklace she always wore, but it was empty. He immediately ran to Mikatan's room, urging her to hold on. Thankfully, she was saved. Mikatan thanked Yuthan, confused about how he knew where she kept her medicine. Yuthan then begged her to stop being Strange Juice. Mikatan asked why. Frustrated, Yuthan said it should be obvious. Her body was clearly weakening from repeated eubiffication. Now realizing how much Yuthan knew about her, Mikatan couldn't believe it. There were people depending on her. Yuthan questioned what the point of that was if she ended up dying. He even mentioned that Ishigata never wanted this either. Shocked that Yuthan knew about Ishigata, Mikatan began singing a magical song that Ishigata used to teach her. She was even more stunned when Yuthan recognized it. Yuthan then revealed that he was actually Pine, and that the body he was in used to belong to Mikatan back when she was still Chiyoko. Overwhelmed, Mikatan broke into tears and hugged Yuthan tightly. She was angry he had stayed silent all this time. She had missed Pine so much. Mikatan then shared what had happened in the past. After their car accident and falling into the dam, Ishigata had rescued her. At the time, they also searched for Pine and Guriko, but the storm made it impossible. It wasn't until the next morning that Mikatan realized her body had been switched with someone else's. She had no idea how it happened. Devastated, she cried endlessly, not knowing what would become of her without Ishigata. Yuthan explained that was why they had come to the Tokyo apartment. Mikatan was again surprised that Yuthan knew that too. She recalled that she and Ishigata lived in the apartment for a year. But one day, people from a lab tracked them down. Ishigata was seriously ill at the time. She told Mikatan to escape through the window. Mikatan refused, not wanting to leave her behind. But Ishigata insisted, saying her condition would only slow Mikatan down. Still, Mikatan didn't want to go. She couldn't bear to leave without Ishigata. To calm her down, Ishigata promised to catch up after dealing with the intruders. Sadly, that promise was never fulfilled. Not long after Mikatan ran out, the apartment caught fire. She stood crying in the rain, watching the place burn down, until Mika found her. Mikatan shared that Ishigata loved cinnamon. Things like cinnamon toast and apple pie, even cinnamon tea. At first, Mikatan had thought cinnamon was some kind of candy, so she tried it, which made Ishigata burst out laughing. Every time she smells cinnamon now, it reminds her of that moment, the apartment, and Ishigata's smile. Yuthan pleaded with her to think again about what Ishigata truly wanted, especially since she gave her life to protect Mikatan. But Mikatan didn't respond to that. Instead, she asked if Yuthan remembered the ring. She used to fight over it with Kuriko, and she really missed it. The next day, Yuthan kept calling out for Meika, but got no answer. He went into her room, but Meika wasn't there. Only the TV had been left on. He called her phone, and when Meika answered, she asked if he had seen it. Confused, Yuthan asked what she meant. Meika thought Yuthan was calling because he had seen something. When he said he hadn't, she explained that she had sent him a picture before she left. She called it a late Christmas gift. She then asked why he had called. Yuthan, a little annoyed, and asked where she was, but Meika joked and said she was on Earth. Irritated, Yuthan insisted he needed to talk about something serious, Mikatan's physical condition. Meika was at the station dealing with a minor issue with her device and was on her way to buy a replacement part. Yuthan asked her to come to his room as soon as she got home, and Meika agreed. After hanging up, Yuthan opened the message Meika had sent him and was surprised to see a photo of Mikatan's skirt lifted, revealing her underwear. Then Yuthan turned on the TV, which was showing a debate about an asteroid. One of the experts explained that basically stopping the asteroid was impossible. Nuclear weapons were ineffective in space since they didn't create explosion waves, and even with dozens of missiles, it wouldn't be enough to destroy an asteroid 2 kilometers wide, though it would be a different story if there were thousands of missiles. This made Yuthan recall what Gliese had said about the United States secretly launching a military satellite equipped with several nuclear missiles into orbit. The mission was to use those missiles to destroy any incoming asteroids. Yuthan realized all those statements were fabricated. He knocked on Rabura's door but got no answer. Then he went to Ito's room. Ito was surprised that Yuthan had come in without knocking first. Yuthan asked where Rabura was, and Ito said Rabura had left early that morning because she had a sudden request for an exorcism. Yuthan tried calling Rabura, but her phone was off. He returned to his room only to be startled when Shiranosuke suddenly appeared. Shiranosuke said he really wanted to show up like a typical ghost. He asked Yuthan if he had found any clues. Yuthan explained that he had spent the whole day going to the university and research labs to ask physicists and space technology experts. They said it was impossible for nuclear weapons to stop an asteroid, but reassured him that there was no chance the asteroid would hit Earth. This meant Gliese was lying, and Yuthan had been too trusting of that false information. It also meant that the U.S. Department of Defense's Intelligence Bureau was either lying or had intentionally fabricated the story. Yuthan said that tomorrow would be the day of reckoning, with Glise's visit and Miyazawa Kenji's attack scheduled. He finally understood why Kenji had attacked Gliese earlier. Just then, someone knocked on Yuthan's door, and Shiranosuke said goodbye. Meika arrived at Kenji's room wearing a thin, see-through outfit. Yuthan quickly closed his eyes and wondered why Meika was dressed like that. She explained that the hot weather was making her feel overheated because her cooling unit was broken from the hit she took earlier. Meika went inside and sat in front of Yuthan, who kept his eyes closed and asked her to stop that. Meika said it shouldn't matter since Yuthan was also a woman. Yuthan insisted he was male and threw a shirt to Meika. She put on the shirt, which Yuthan noticed made her look even more attractive. He then tossed a blanket to her. Yuthan asked why Meika had come over. Meika reminded him that it was actually Yuthan who called her earlier to come to his room to talk about Mikatan. Yuthan explained that Mikatan had fainted on the rooftop after the party last night, probably because her illness had been acting up again. He was worried her condition was getting worse. He asked Meika to check on Mikatan's health, and she agreed. Later, Yuthan saw Meiko's social media status, which said she had gone karaoke with Moana and some friends. That meant Meiko and Moana were still alive. Earlier that morning, Meiko's body had been found, but because she managed to break Chihaya's grip on her arms and legs, that outcome was avoided. Suddenly, Shiranosuke appeared, coming out from under the faucet pipe. He asked if he had startled Yuthan. Yuthan asked why Shiranosuke had come, and Shiranosuke said he wanted to continue their previous conversation about Gliese. Shiranosuke asked if Yuthan was thinking about beating Gliese up badly, and he made it clear that he would not allow that to happen. Yuthan wondered why. Shiranosuke scolded Yuthan, explaining that such actions would alter history. If Kenji had not been defeated by Rabara, then the history where they fought wouldn't exist, because a bond without pain is not really a bond. The more suffering there is, the stronger the bond becomes. Yuthan then understood that making up after a fight is very important. Shiranosuke added that the cooperation of all the residents was crucial for the success of the project to preserve humanity. Yuthan asked if he should let Glisei escape. Shiranosuke agreed and said the most important time would be tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock. That was the deciding moment, so Yuthan needed to follow his instructions until then. When the moment arrived, Rabara was arguing with Glisei. She was disappointed because she felt Glisei was trying to take advantage of her. Kenji shouted that Glisei was someone who was always messing around. Glisei asked who Kenji really was. Kenji said there was something he wanted to talk about with Glisei. He asked if there was an atmosphere in outer space and wanted to hear Glisei's opinion. Glisei ran away and Kenji tried to chase him, ready to kick him in the head. However, he hesitated for a moment, wondering if it was really okay to do that. But in order to change history, he kicked Glisei into a pond, which caused them to start fighting. Yet Kenji failed, he fell down, and Glisei escaped. He was confused why he couldn't pull it off even though the person who knew the truth was right in front of him. But he let him get away anyway. Kenji planned to follow him soon. Fortunately, Meiko once sent him a picture of Mikotan's underwear, and just by seeing it, he instantly got re-energized. He ran at lightning speed to chase Glisei and pushed him into a river. Glisei felt like some of his ribs had broken after crashing into the rocks. Kenji threatened to break Glisei's fingers if he didn't answer his questions. Glisei asked what exactly Kenji wanted to know. Kenji wanted to find out Glisei's true identity. Glisei admitted that he was a member of the United States Department of Defense and showed his ID card, but Kenji threw it away. Kenji forced Glisei not to lie to him and was serious about breaking his fingers. Glisei asked why Kenji didn't believe him. Kenji said everything Glisei told Rabara was fabricated. Glisei then realized that Kenji had been eavesdropping on his conversation. Yuthan confirmed this and even said he had listened twice. Glisei was even more confused and asked what that meant. Kenji said Glisei didn't mean to know about it and asked why he ran away from him. Glisei said anyone would run away if someone like Kenji suddenly appeared in front of them. Kenji broke Glisei's pinky finger and said this was just the beginning. There were still 9 more fingers left and even his molars would be at risk if he didn't tell the truth. Glisei smiled and said that even if he told now, it wouldn't affect the project. Eventually, Glisei admitted that he was the leader of the Kyumei group and responsible for all the projects. He confirmed that while some nuclear weapons couldn't destroy the asteroid VR-1, they could only alter its trajectory to hit Earth. The real problem was who could penetrate the AFS-PC server. Even attacks from brilliant hackers around the world weren't enough to overcome it. That's why they were after Meika, because her hacking skills exceeded those of ordinary people. Kenji said that Meika could not be threatened by the Kyumei group. Glisei said he didn't threaten her, but Meika, on her own will, would infiltrate the AFS-PC server because she wouldn't listen to her friend's warnings. Kenji got annoyed and said that was why Glisei needed Rabara. Glisei laughed and explained that once Meika opened the gate, the rest could sneak into the server through an undetected route. Kenji suddenly remembered what Shiranosuke said about the critical time being tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock. Kenji immediately started running but suddenly fell. It turned out that Glisei had secretly injected him with a drug when he fell off the cliff. Because the pain accumulated during the Yubafikase process, it was no wonder Kenji didn't notice it at first. Glisei revealed that the injection was an anesthetic, meaning Kenji would wake up after half a day, but he would likely freeze to death here before then. Angry, Kenji attacked Glisei. Glisei was surprised that Kenji still had so much strength despite the anesthetic. Then Glisei said that he also possessed the Yubafikase ability. After Glisei used Yubafikase, Kenji was thrown back. It turned out Glisei had been using the Two-Maker all this time. Glisei had received it from Rondo, and it really proved useful. Kenji asked who Glisei really was. Annoyed by all the questions, Glisei quickly attacked Kenji until he fell down. Then Glisei removed the mask Kenji was wearing. Glisei had already suspected that the person behind the costume was Yuthan. Yuthan pushed Glisei and noticed the letter P on the back of Glisei's neck. Glisei said it seemed Yuthan had already figured it out. Glisei pushed Yuthan down and then took off his own mask. Yuthan couldn't believe his eyes. The person was actually Guriko, now inside Pine's body. Guriko had changed his identity to Teroka Ryudo. Ryudo said that it didn't seem right to say long time no see since he had actually met Yuthan 6 days ago. Yuthan called him Guriko and Ryudo confirmed it, adding that this body should belong to Yuthan. He asked if that made him feel nostalgic. Ryudo also said he wasn't forcing Yuthan to believe that humanity's history was almost over, and that living while turning away from that truth wasn't so bad either. Yuthan started crying and asked why the Guriko he knew had become like this. Ryudo explained that people change after 9 years and that Yuthan was actually the strange one for not changing. Yuthan still couldn't accept that Guriko was not the same person he had known. Slowly, Yuthan's awareness began to fade as he kept calling out Guriko's name. At exactly 3:30 a.m., Rabara knocked urgently on Meika's bedroom door. Meika woke up, confused about who could be calling her at such an odd hour. She quickly opened the door and saw Rabara crying. Meika asked if Rabara had been rejected by a guy again. Without a word, Rabara immediately kneeled down and hugged Meika, clearly overwhelmed by the problem she was facing. Rabara explained that if things continued like this, everyone would be in danger. She begged Meika for help with the AFS-PC server. Later that afternoon, Yuthan had finally recovered from the anesthesia injected by Ryudo the night before. He ran straight to Meika's room and asked her what she had been doing at 4 a.m. Meika was surprised by Yuthan's sudden question. Yuthan raised his voice, demanding that Meika answer him right away. Meika explained that Rabara had unexpectedly come to her at exactly 3:30 in the morning and had spoken incoherently. At first, Meika didn't believe what Rabara said, but she thought she should at least check it out. Yuthan felt weak and disappointed, wondering how things had gotten so bad. Meika said she didn't know what was really going on, but the server itself was fine. No viruses, no signs of hacking. She had used a satellite connection to hack into the AFS-PC server, but the QMA group intercepted that connection physically. Using the AFS-PC server, they launched several nuclear missiles from American military satellites. Soon, those nukes would reach VR-1 and detonate simultaneously, causing the VR-1's trajectory to slightly change toward Earth. Yuthan asked Chiranosuke why he hadn't told him earlier. Chiranosuke said that the future of humanity must be decided by humans themselves, and that was the law of the spirit world. Yuthan got frustrated and slammed the satellite connection down. Yuthan then locked himself in his room, covering his body with a blanket. He remembered an event from 9 years ago, back when he was still in Pinei's body. At that time, Pinei saw Guriko and Chiyoko fighting over an object that looked like a ring. Guriko asked Chiyoko to return the item, but Chiyoko refused. They pushed each other, causing Chiyoko to fall and the ring to fly away. Guriko quickly grabbed the ring. Pinei went over to help Chiyoko, who was upset with Guriko and crying. Pinei called out to Guriko, but Guriko didn't respond. Seeing Chiyoko's knees were hurt from the fall, Pinei went to get antiseptic for her. But Chiyoko stopped Pinei, refusing his help because she knew Pinei wasn't very good at spraying antiseptic. Chiyoko wanted only Guriko to do it and pleaded with her to apply the antiseptic. Guriko agreed and began spraying Chiyoko's knees, asking if it hurt. Chiyoko said it didn't, and she thanked Guriko sincerely. Chiranosuke appeared and said that the conclusion was the human preservation project would fail. Yuthan could no longer reach a peaceful and happy future. Yuthan asked why Chiranosuke didn't care about that. Chiranosuke explained that unlike Yuthan, he still had chances ahead. He had high hopes for Yuthan now, believing Yuthan could create a new future timeline that had never been seen before. But the result was only this. Honestly, Chiranosuke was disappointed with Yuthan and felt it was clear that Yuthan had lost and was now facing a complete defeat. Even before Chiranosuke said it, Yuthan already knew what he had to do. He needed to pass the baton to the next Yuthan, the baton named Hope. Finally, Yuthan wrote the word U-turn in the Nandala Gondola book and continued to reflect. That afternoon, Rabara and Ito came to see him. Ito asked what was wrong, but Yuthan just told her not to enter other people's rooms without permission. Rabara thought Yuthan was feeling unwell. Yuthan kept hiding under the blanket. Ito and Rabara noticed a book titled Nandala Gondola in Yuthan's room. Just as Ito was about to open it, Yuthan quickly snatched it away. They even joked about Yuthan having Chunabu, which refers to a teenage delusion where someone tries too hard to stand out and convinces themselves they possess hidden knowledge or secret powers. Yuthan got annoyed and insisted he was not like that. He said it was none of their business and asked why they had come to his room. Ito explained that they were planning to have a nabe dinner together that night and invited Yuthan to join them. Yuthan checked a note on his phone that said Ito was in danger on the 29th. He asked Ito if she had received any strange emails like invitations to go to a shrine or something similar. Ito said she had not received any emails like that. Yuthan felt relieved. Ito, curious, asked why he had asked that, but Yuthan told her not to think too much about it. They went back to discussing the invitation for the nabe dinner, and Yuthan agreed to come. That night, Meika looked out the window and noticed the snowfall seemed like it would last well into the night. The residents of the Korei boarding house started eating the nabe meal together, but Ito was nowhere to be seen. Rabara wondered what Ito was doing and why she hadn't come back yet. Mika-tan said that Ito had gone to get milk for Mui. Meika speculated if she might be getting it directly from the farm. Yuthan started to feel a little worried and said he would go check on her. Mika-tan stood up and decided to go with him. When they reached Ito's room, they found it empty, but noticed the window was open. They were both shocked, and Yuthan immediately suspected something bad had happened to Ito. Suddenly, Mikotan received an email saying that Ito was with the sender, who also instructed them to come to the Ishinogari shrine and to bring Yuthan along. Yuthan hurried off and told Mikotan not to follow, but Mikotan insisted on going with him because she couldn't just wait at home. Yuthan found it strange since Tomodachi Haya should have been in the hospital recovering from broken arms and legs. He wondered who had really sent that email. When they arrived at the shrine, they saw Ryudo carrying Ito. Ryudo said that Ito was just sleeping. Mikotan recognized Ryudo's face from when they had been on the hijacked bus. Ryudo took off his glasses, revealing a wound on his forehead that reminded Mikotan of the scar on Pine's forehead when she helped Chiyoko before. Mikotan found it hard to believe what was happening. Ryudo said this was a strange meeting. He also explained that he should be inside Mikotan's body, Mikotan should be inside Yuthan's body, and Yuthan should be inside his own body. Mikotan asked why Ryudo, or Guriko, as she knew him, had changed like this. Ryudo then made a request to Yuthan and Mikotan. He wanted both of them to become W, and Mikotan had no idea what that meant. Yuthan asked what would happen if he refused, and Ryudo threatened to harm Ito, pointing a gun at her. Mikotan pleaded with Ryudo to lower the gun, then yelled for him to put it down. Yuthan tried to stop her, but Mikotan ignored him. Yuthan warned that Mikotan's body was already getting weak. Mikotan said that Ito was a very precious friend to her. Ryudo then threw Ito towards Mikotan. Mikotan quickly caught Ito's still unconscious body and asked if she was okay. Ito woke up and called out to her. At that moment, Mikotan felt a tightness in her chest, as if her illness was acting up again. Ryudo said he felt sorry for Mikotan because it seemed like her body was already at its limit. He explained that if Mikotan became W, her body would heal on its own, or more accurately, she would remain in euberification. And that would be something extraordinary. Yuthan warned Mikotan not to be fooled by Ryudo since everything he said was a lie. Yuthan said there was no way Mikotan could become W when even Oiwa itself hadn't fully formed yet. Ryudo showed his pinky finger, which Yuthan had previously broken, and it was now completely healed. He mentioned that luckily only his pinky was broken because if it were his hand, it might take 3 days to recover. Yuthan didn't believe him, saying that Ryudo would need Mui's regenerative abilities to become W. Ryudo then asked if the spirit of Tsubuchi Kyumei was the one who told him that. He claimed that Tsubuchi Kyumei didn't know anything, and that Bu was already complete, and that he himself was the proof. All this time, Ryudo had been feeding false information to Tsubuchi Kyumei, because it was better that way while Tsubuchi Kyumei was weak to euberification. The goals of the Kyumei group were impressive, Ryudo admitted. He said he genuinely loved Kyumei's teachings from the bottom of his heart, while Tsubuchi Kyumei was blinded day by money and greed. Honestly, Ryudo felt very relieved that Tsubuchi Kyumei was dead, because he couldn't let her continue to stand at the top of the organization. Mikotan still couldn't believe that Guriko, whom she once knew, had done all of this. Ryudo said that Guriko no longer existed in this world, she was gone. Yuthan asked what had happened to Ryudo. He answered that all the suffering in this world was clear proof that humans were imperfect, and that meant humans needed to evolve into perfection. Ryudo became Kyumei's student and received a new name before being promoted to a leader. Now he held full power over the Kyumei group. He had been waiting for this moment of revolution for a long time, waiting alone, but then miraculously he found his friends on December 21 when they met on a bus. Mikotan cried, asking what had happened to the Guriko she once knew. She said she missed her so much and wanted to go shopping and watch movies together. She also wanted to hunt for pancakes and fruit desserts with her until they were full. Mikotan said she had kept imagining and waiting for all those moments until the time would come, but this was not destiny at all. She kept shouting for Ryudo to return the Guriko she loved. Ryudo said humanity would soon be extinct, and if they wanted to survive, they had to cut ties with imperfection and transform into W. In doing so, Ryudo would allow Mikotan and Yuthan to board his ark. The deadline was only 2 days away. He asked them to think carefully about his offer. Mikotan was singing the magical song that Ishigata had taught her, but this time it didn't work at all to lift her sadness. She then asked Yuthan what the letter W actually meant and what was meant by humanity facing extinction. Yuthan told her not to worry about those things. Still, Mikotan remained concerned because she was a hero of justice, and saving humanity was the responsibility given to her. Yuthan went to his room and shouted as loud as he could. He even broke some things to release his emotions. He cried because he felt there was nothing left he could do, everything seemed over. Then he remembered Chiranosuke, who had such high hopes for him and believed Yuthan could create a new future track that no one had seen before. He recalled all his dear friends. Yuthan thought about Rabura, remembering when he had poured out his heart, danced the dance of joy, cried, and even the time Rabura had sacrificed herself for Meika. He also remembered Meika, how they met and discovered the two-maker he created. Yuthan recalled when Meika-tan had told him about the feeling of nostalgia she had when meeting him and how she missed Pine. Then Yuthan stood up and headed to the rooftop. He saw Meika-tan there and walked over to her, immediately hugging her. He told her that he finally understood. He admitted he was wrong for giving up on everything. He had thought there was nothing more he could do, but that wasn't true. In this world, there's nothing we can't do, and Yuthan promised he would lay down the third track and create a new future. Meika-tan looked a bit puzzled by what he meant by a new future. Yuthan explained that it would be a super happy and peaceful future. Meika-tan smiled. Yuthan reassured her not to worry anymore because he would protect her as well as Rabura, Ito, Meika, Mugi, and everyone living on Earth. Meika-tan held Yuthan's hand and reminded him to also protect Guriko. Yuthan took off his clothes and changed into the hero costume of Miyazawa Kenji. He remembered what he had said earlier, that this history was wrong and that this future should never happen. He promised he would change this history. Up to now, many versions of himself had tried and ended up repeating the same mistakes as before, and with that, the hopes of his past selves had been passed on to his current self. More precisely, the hopes of every Yuthan. Yuthan was the one who would change fate and rewrite this history.